This is Adam Graham from Pretty Much the Present, bringing you a week of old-time radio podcasts. These episodes were originally released back in 2011, and we're releasing them here pretty much as is, with only some extraneous bits such as the opening from all of the episodes after the first episode removed. Because these are old, it should be noted that any offers or promotions mentioned in the episode may not be valid unless they're currently mentioned on the Great Detectives website. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, please email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Be sure to cast your vote for the show once a month on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And let us know which is your favorite of the shows, if you've got a favorite, when you cast your vote on Podcast Alley this month. And you can become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. Well, before we do get started, I want to encourage you to check out my book, Tales of the Dim Night. More information, including recent interviews and excerpts, are available at dimnight.com. We're going to get into today's adventure of the Abbotts, the Blood Red City.
After all, a girl might expect almost anything on a second honeymoon. Anything. But murder.
The National Broadcasting Company presents The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Les Damon and Claudia Morgan as Pat and Jean Abbott, those popular characters of detective fiction created by Francis Crane. NBC invites you to join Pat and Jean each week at this time for another exciting recorded adventure in romance and crime. Now here is Jean Abbott to set the stage for tonight's puzzle in murder.
Pat and I had left San Francisco, our hometown and headquarters for Pat's business as a private detective. We'd taken the car and headed off into the mountains, high up, where it was cool, quiet, and we could be alone. You can underline that word, alone. We were going to enjoy a second honeymoon. Enjoy is putting it mildly. We had so much fun, we decided to play hooky from the Cops and Robbers game for an extra week and drive east across the plains. Just wander and stare like tourists at the scenery. Chat with the characters in those isolated towns. Wind up evenings at a lodge under a desert sky. The heartland of the States, as you drive across, is empty for huge stretches, with raw gashes cut deep into the bare face of the earth. It's rock-strewn, solitary, sometimes ominous. Blue, Pat?
Oh, a little, darling. Just thinking about this racket I'm in.
Oh, what's wrong with it? You catch killers, you earn a fat fee.
Yeah, big deal.
Oh, what's the matter with that, dear?
No, I don't know. I understand the details. Chemistry, physics, ballistics, law, that's easy. But why? Why this business of supposedly civilized human beings knocking each other off around the clock? I hope no reporter ever asked me my philosophy of crime. I haven't any.
Well, you're not usually philosophic, Pat. I know the symptoms, dear. When you get talkative and moody, you're, hungry.
Maybe.
Look, that sign.
Where?
Oh, we just passed a sign. It said, approaching Carville. How's for stopping there and having a steak?
Okay. Carville. Carville?
You know the town?
Oh, yeah, now I know. Larry Martin works here.
Well, who's Larry Martin?
Newspaper man, friend of mine. He used to work in San Francisco. Now he's managing editor of the Carville Register. We look him up.
Oh, that's a novelty.
What is?
An old friend of yours turning out to be a man instead of a gorgeous woman.
Dull, huh?
Oh, no, not for me. Maybe for you. You used to know women, brother.
Please. My wife is around.
Oh, sorry. What kind of guy is Larry Martin?
Oh, he's a crusader type. He used to say, I may be a starving newspaper man, but I take no applesauce from anybody. Sounds corny, but he meant it. He's out of date, but wonderful. You like him. And yarns. Oh, that guy will spin them all night. People he's met, impressions he's had about life.
Well, let's not get too enthusiastic, pal. We'll end up killing a whole evening with him. And this is our second honeymoon, remember?
Oh, no. Later on, you'll have to do something to remind me of it.
As you approach Carville, you sense the excitement of a boom town. The flashing neon signs in the twilight and a bit too big. Joey's air-cooled cafe, beer on ice, gas, souvenirs. The field hands dismount from their horses to play the pinball machine in the lobby of a cheap hotel. The newly made signs are crude with staggering prices. Shave, $1.50. You tense a bit coming in over the railroad tracks on the highway. Well, you know a boom town often has a rough crime rate, too. Carville was a mining town before. The wooden arms of the old dredges and cranes loomed up against the dark sky, like gallows.
Oh, we don't have to bother looking for Larry in the phone book, dear. See the little two-story building over there? Carville Register.
Oh, fine, Pat. Oh, there's a parking spot.
Uh-huh. I used to tell Larry...
Don't turn around, dear.
Huh?
Just park quickly and quietly.
Why, what is it?
A staring contest. First, that cop glared at us for no reason, and now there are two men behind us staring.
Well, so what? It's a small town. We're strangers.
It looks like they hate you before they met you. It gives me the shivers. We raced up the rickety stairs of an old building. We found Larry Martin, the newspaper man. He was surprised and happy and insisted that we walk around with him and see his presses and teletypes. Then we went to dinner at a roadhouse on the state highway. It was a roadhouse you wouldn't expect in normal times. There was dice, roulette, slot machines. One of them even played for $100 gold pieces.
The Carville's doing all right, huh, Pat?
Yeah, Larry. How long will it last?
Well, no telling. That vein of ore they struck just doesn't seem to have an end. Besides, we're on the main road to Ferguson City, and there's been ore discovered there, too.
Uh-huh. Well, how's it going, Larry? The paper, I mean.
Oh, great.
You still saving the world every day in print?
No. I don't get out to the prospecting area much. Too busy at my desk. But there's some amazing stories about get-rich-quick boys breaking from there.
Well, who's the big shot?
What do you mean, Gene?
Oh, that short, fat fellow. Just came in with the blonde girl, the one everybody's bowing and scraping to.
Oh, that's Uncle Walter.
Uncle Walter?
Walter Bradford. Now, there's the kind of amazing thing I mean. Walter used to own a general store here. Made a small living. Along came the boom, and Walter's probably the most important man in town. Very popular, very generous. That's why we call him Uncle Walter. He's an easy touch.
Well, if he's so popular, why the two mugs with him?
Well, those guys? Well, just friends.
Well, the blonde doesn't look like his wife. His wife would be older, not quite so brassy.
Well, she's, his girl, that's all. Quite a kid, Florence. Used to work in the diner on the highway.
Now she's wearing a mink. Yeah, she must be quite a kid.
Does Bradford own this place?
Might have a small piece of it, I don't know.
Well, he certainly doesn't mind fighting in public.
What have you been up to, Pat? I got a wire story about you solving a robbery in San Francisco, but where were you before? It's been 2 years.
If you know this Walter, you better calm him down.
I'll never forget the last night we spent together, Pat. At Santa Monica, wasn't it?
Pat, look at that Florence go marching out. Talk about leaving in a huff.
Pat was supposed to get on the train back to see you, Gene. Do you mind if I tell her what happened?
Oh, go right ahead.
Well, the party was on the beach, Gene, not far from where Sunset Boulevard hits the Pacific and...
Pat!
It's outside,
Pat,
Gene. Something's happened out there.
They'll straighten it out. Just stay here.
Stay here. I just saw that blonde fall down through the glass door.
Same old Pat. Smells trouble like a hound dog. Goes racing for it. Come back, Pat.
I'll go with you, Pat.
Pat, I'm
I'll
telling
be
you.
right back, Larry. If I can push my way through this crowd. Excuse me, please. Where are you, Jean?
Right behind you, dear.
There. Now.
Pat.
Huh?
Pat, she's dead. That spring knife stabbed her.
What's everybody standing around for? Send for the police.
Who are you?
Pat Abbott, private detective.
You can leave.
I said, did anybody send for the police? Don't allow anyone to leave the club. Lock the doors. Is there a doctor here?
You're all excited, aren't you, Mr. Abbott?
No, not at all, pal. Just routine.
I said you can leave. We'll try to struggle along without you.
Okay. I just wanted to help, Mr. Bradford.
How did you know my name?
Your Uncle Walter. It gets around.
The coroner's coming. He'll take care of everything.
Now, somebody must have seen what happened. Who did? Mr. Bradford and this girl were just outside this doorway here.
Well, anybody see what happened? I said, did anybody see what happened? You see, Abbott? Nobody saw nothing. Nobody.
Well, that's ridiculous. Half a dozen people were standing here. You, from the parking lot. And you, the hat check girl. You both saw it, didn't you?
You're stinking drunk, Abbott.
Oh, come on. I'm perfectly sober.
What do you mean saying he's drunk? And what's this all about? Where are the police?
Break up this crowd. Everybody out. Quit snooping around. Are you hard of hearing, Abbott? I said everybody out.
Yes, I heard. I'm staying till the police arrive. A girl has been murdered. There are half a dozen witnesses. I want it cleared up.
We clean up our own mess. We don't want no help from outsiders.
When it comes to murder, you've got no choice.
You're in Carville, mister. We run it this way. You fancy guys can have your own ideas.
Now, look, Bradford, I wouldn't be boasting about this deal if I were you.
My gosh, and we were so hospitable till you, weren't we?
Murder is murder, Mr. Bradford, in Carville or anywhere else.
Oh, is that so? Well, now, I wouldn't have known that. I'm what you smart guys call a poor hick, Abbott. Never had a chance to learn much. You might think that was too bad. But it's awful handy sometimes being ignorant.
You're covering up a murder, Bradford. Now,
You let go of me. Now, you look, Abbott. Don't go sticking your kisser into something where you don't belong. No wonder I don't like your type. You talk too much. You get hot-headed. You think everything's your business.
Pat, listen to me. Now, calm down. Come here. I gotta talk to you. Pat, will you listen?
What kind of a town is this?
He won't listen to reason, Larry. Not from me, anyways. You try if you want.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bradford.
yes, sir.
Pat, get out of town now as fast as possible.
Are you crazy, Larry? What's got into you?
I don't understand what you're trying
Jean, Pat, I lied to you.
You what?
Walter owns this place. He owns the town. He runs it. We have a figurehead mayor and a phony police department. Brawls happen in this trap every night.
Brawls. This was murder.
I'm telling you, this is Walter's town. He gets away with anything.
He and his hoods.
Everybody in this town either owes Walters or is scared of him.
You too?
Yeah. Me too. But there's no time to explain. I know how Walter thinks. I know what he's liable to do.
What's he liable to do? I recognize the spring knife that killed that girl, Larry. The sterling silver handle. Bradford was toying with it at the table before they went outside. This is an open and shut case. Any jury would convict him in a minute. He'll be in the death house very soon.
That's what you think. Oh, you're still the same, Pat, huh? Same cockeyed sense of justice that works overtime. Doesn't always come out that way, Pat.
Larry, you can't just write this off. They aren't going to wipe that girl's blood off the floor, toss the body in the drink, and forget it. I won't let them. The authorities won't let them.
What authorities? The police of this town? Some other town, you think? Who's going to tell him? Who'll testify against him if by some miracle he's brought to trial? Run for that parking lot, Pat. Take Jean and head for the highway this minute. The coroner will clean up.
Clean up? Run away? Me?
Yeah, you. The big deal detective was up against the facts of life for a change. He'll knock you off, Pat. You're the only thorn in his side now, you and Jean. As long as you're within this city limits, you're fair game, a walking target. I've got to get back to the office, make up the first edition. Remember, just get out. Don't pick a fight. Don't ask questions. Write to me, huh? Tell me how it goes. And take care. Keep your nose clean.
Now, Larry, wait a minute. I don't get it, Gene. He's like a terrified rabbit.
Well, what'll we do?
Call the state police, that's what. Come on, I'll show you. Now walk out casually. No wisecracks. Head for the door, then dash for the car.
We stole out, bewildered and tense. Pat was very bitter. Walter and his boys obviously had an eye on us. But we got out and found a phone booth.
All right, this will do it.
Who are you calling, Pat?
Ferguson City. This town is sold out. Bradford owns it like it was his own backyard. We need help from outside. I'll have the state troopers here in 10 minutes.
Your call, please.
State Police Headquarters, Ferguson City. This is urgent.
One moment, please.
Watch the door, Gene. If you spot anybody that looks suspicious, tell me. I'll hang up. We'll try from another place.
Sorry, sir. Lines to Ferguson City are tied up.
All the lines?
I can try again later. May I have your name and number?
Never mind. Lines are tied up. That's a stall. Bradford's got that night operator working for him. It's a cinch in a little town like this. 2 o'clock in the morning. Why would the lines be tied up?
Well, how about sending a telegram?
No, telegram office is closed. I noticed it on the way over.
Well, let's drive there. It's about 50 miles. We can make it in an hour, dear.
Right, come on, to the car. You got the road map?
In the glove compartment.
Okay.
Start towards the highway, and I'll give you instructions as you go, dear.
All right. We forget to put gas in this thing? No, look. Tank is full. I'll try the lights.
Oh, they go on fine. Nothing wrong with the battery. You can hear the spark.
Yeah. I think I know why we can't start. Wait here.
What is it, Pat?
That's what I thought. They botched up the motor while we were calling. We'll never start this car tonight. Come on, Gene, get out.
Okay. Where are we off to?
To the bus station.
Wait, Pat.
Huh?
Don't move. Across the street, 2 mugs. They were with Walter. You see them under the street lamp?
Yeah. All right, walk slowly. That's it, easy. See them reflected in that shop window?
Pat, this whole town is a trap for us.
Yeah. All right, walk faster. But when we hit the corner, run.
We made it to the corner. We ran 2 blocks in the pitch-black night. We saw the bus station. It was deserted. But there was a light on and a man at the ticket booth.
Help you, ma'am?
We want 2 tickets on the next bus to Ferguson City.
Ferguson
City. Please, hurry.
Ferguson City. Sorry, it's all reserved.
When does it leave?
Well, be here in about 30 minutes.
There's no one around. Where are the passengers with the reservations?
Well, it ain't our fault if they don't show up.
What other buses leave tonight?
Ain't no more tonight.
You sure?
You trying to tell me my business?
Never mind, skip it. Come on, Gene.
Pat, the railroad station. We could try that.
Yes, maybe. It's obvious that Bradford's got everybody eating out of his hand. Which way is the railroad station?
2 blocks north.
Thanks. Let's go, Gene.
Oh, Pat, the ticket booths are closed.
Well, there must be somebody around here. Trains come through. They wouldn't desert the place. Hello in there. Anybody inside? Open this window. Come on, open up in there.
Take it easy, stranger. What are you trying to do? Break something? Wake up the whole town?
I'm sorry, officer. There doesn't seem to be anybody around.
So what?
Well, I want 2 tickets on the next train out.
Ticket seller's going to eat.
Well, there must be somebody here.
Ain't nobody.
Are you sure, officer?
I'm sure. Now cut out banging on the door and yelling, or I'll haul you in for creating a public disturbance.
Well, when is the ticket seller coming back?
I wouldn't know.
Where does he go to eat?
What business is it of yours? He ain't here. He won't be back for a long time. Now move along.
Pat, there isn't any way out. And I'm afraid they'll kill us.
Yeah. You can kind of feel it. Sense it in the air. They're watching us. Waiting to make the kill.
Pat, darling, I'm so scared.
I know, dear, I know. But we mustn't stop trying. Now, come on. There's one more chance. A gas station might be open on the highway. Yes, look, there's a gas station, see? Now, we just wait for a car.
It's awfully lit up here, Pat.
We'll crouch down here, back of this sign. Now, if anybody leaves a car open for a second, we grab it. There's one.
No, he won't get out, Pat. He'll just ask for gas and sit there.
That's right. But the station attendant will turn around then. Maybe go inside to get change. We'll get a break. The driver will be alone at the wheel. We're lucky. The man is driving and he's alone.
How do we handle it?
Now, look, I'll slug the driver. You jump in, grab the wheel. I'll toss him aside and get in with you. Now, this is our last out, Gene. Now, come on. Watch. Wait. He asked for the gas. Good, he wants something the guy has to get from inside. All right, now I'll sneak around the far side by the guy's wheel. Grab him from in back. You go on the other side. Now, it's got to be done very quickly. You ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go.
Sorry, pal. I'll take this car. Get in, Gene.
I'm in?
I'll let go of your throat in a minute, pal. I'm not going to strangle you. I just don't want you to make any noise. Sorry, I've got to borrow the car. I'll just toss you over. Decide. Take it away, Gene.
Which way, dear?
Just follow the signs to the state highway.
Oh, brother, I thought we'd never get out of this town. Oh, I guess we're in the clear.
No, faster, Gene. Drive faster. That truck, Gene, look out.
You all right, Pat?
Yes.
Oh, that crazy truck driver cutting us off. He's standing right in our way. I'll get him out. Get out of the way. Pull to the side.
You're wasting your breath, Mrs. Abbott. He ain't moving, not till I get in your car.
Oh, Pat, this man...
Easy, Gene. I was afraid this was the deal.
I'm going to sit in the back of your car. Do you mind?
Yes, I mind.
I got my own invitation. This 38. Start up. Take the next side road off the highway.
Do everything he says, Gene.
There's a warehouse 2 blocks down. Pull up there. All right, leave the car. Don't worry about it. You won't be coming back. Walk into that warehouse. Go on. The side door's open. Push it and go on in. All right, shut the door and walk down to the far end.
Now, you're one of Bradford's suckers, huh? Taking a chance on a double murder rap for dear old Uncle Walter.
Shut up.
Suppose it gets out that you knocked us off. What'll Bradford do? Send a love letter to the death house?
I said shut up.
We drove here from farther west. They'll know we passed through Carboon. They'll know we never got any further. They'll...
Duck, Gene! Behind these barrels. Follow me.
You all right?
Yes, dear. Oh, what a wallop. I think he's out cold.
No, just for a minute. I didn't clip him square. Just enough to knock him down. I had the wrong angle. And the shots went wild. Maybe I can get him to fire the rest of his bullets. I'll make a sound. Move the barrel. Stay very low. That's good. I'll stay here. Don't budge. I'll try to sneak around in back of him. I'll crawl behind these barrels.
Okay, dear, but be careful.
Come on out, Abbott. I dare you show your face. You hear me? Come on out. Okay, Abbott. My gun's empty now. Come on out. We'll make a deal. Abbott? Where are you?
Run for the door, Gene! Yeah, this time I caught him right. Now, come on, let's go.
Darling, your mouth. He's ripped it.
Never mind.
But where to now?
The whole town will be after us, hunting us like a wolf pack. Be a lynch mob.
Where's that side door? Oh, yeah, good. Sure enough, some more hoods coming down the side street. Here.
We're lost, Pat. It's just no use. It's no use at all.
Wait a minute. There's one outside chance. We're going to the newspaper office to see Larry Martin. Even if the whole town's bottled up, there's one gimmick. Come on, Gene.
Pat, I told you to get out of town. Walter's in the other room checking tomorrow's paper.
Sure. To be certain nothing leaked, huh?
What are you doing here in my office, you and Jean? Trying to commit suicide?
We couldn't get out, Larry. They cut us off, tracked us down.
I can't help you. They'd kill me, too. Now get out, Pat. I beg you. I can't help you.
Nobody can help you, Abbott.
Uncle Walter.
Well, you should be pleased, Bradford. Your boys have been doing a good job.
Not good enough. You and your wife are still alive.
Now, sit down, Bradford.
Behave yourself, Abbott. Don't give me any orders. My mob's on the way here now, and you haven't got a bloody chance. You'll be a dead duck in 3 minutes.
I said sit down. Now get this, Bradford. I may only have 3 minutes, but it's just long enough for me to kill you. And I'll do it, so help me. Before they come to take me, I'll see that you get it, and I can do it in 3 minutes.
Pat, there are a bunch of men down the street searching buildings.
You open your yap to call them, Bradford, and I'll kill you.
Pat, you're out of your mind. You haven't a chance
I
now.
do, though, Larry. Nobody's been thinking, that's all. There is a way to contact Ferguson City. Sure, the phones are out, the roads are blocked, but you can save it. That's why I came here.
What the devil are you talking about? Look out the window, up the street. Walter's boys.
Sure, hang up, Abbott. Knock it off.
Bradford, I said if you open your mouth, I'll murder you. I've been around your type long enough to know 10 different ways of doing it, too. Now, listen, Larry. This is a newspaper. You belong to a wire service. You've got a teletype. You showed it to us before. It reverses, doesn't it? So you can send news bulletins out if a story breaks here. Now, where's your reverse teletype?
No, Pat.
You do what he says, Larry, and when the boys get here, I'll have them string you up.
Larry, where's that reverse teletype? Which one of these confounded gadgets is it, and how does it work?
Well, I think it's this one, Pat, but I don't know how to signal with it.
Speak up, Larry.
Larry, you help them like a little Boy Scout, and my boys will take care of you, but good. We'll drive one of your own news trucks right over your yellow face.
Larry, I know you sold out to Bradford, but doesn't your stomach turn every time he gives you an order?
What kind of talk is that? Don't you feel good when Uncle Walter hands you the dough, Larry? Big dough? More than a bum like you ever saw in his whole crummy life? Who set you up here, small fry? Who took you on when you hopped up that freight without a dime? Is this the thanks I get? Is this the payoff?
Cut it out, both of you. I can't think.
Larry, listen to me. You can crack Bradford now. You've got him right in your own hands. Well, there's just about 60 seconds left. Come on, boy. This whole town has got its face in the dirt. Bradford steps all over everybody. You know the pattern. Now you can break it.
Pat, they're very close. They're almost coming up the stairs.
They'll kill us, Pat. They'll kill us.
That's right, Larry. So be smart. Just wait a minute. You going to be a penniless bum again, a world saver, a pushed around no good newspaper man? You put one finger on that teletype, Larry, and you not only break me, you break a dozen guys. And they'll be out looking for you, and they'll take it out on you, inch by inch.
Don't listen to him. You've been threatened before, Larry. How many times? And every time you did the right thing, where are your guts, Larry?
They're coming up the stairs, Pat.
Well, Larry...
Flip the second key on your left, Gene. It alerts Ferguson City for a news flash.
I got it.
Now pound it like a typewriter.
All right, Gene, transmit this. Send state troopers to Carville immediately. Murder.
Walter realized it was all over. The boys, terrified when they realized state troopers were coming, backed down. Several months later, Walter was tried for homicide and convicted. He said he'd killed Florence in a fit of passion when she threatened to leave him. Nobody bothered going to Walter's execution. Nobody gave a hoot. Pat and I drove on toward San Francisco and home. Larry Martin headed east to seek a job again, but this time with his immortal soul in his pocket. Pat and I were spinning along across the desert toward the Pacific Highway. Fine thing.
Meaning what?
Second honeymoon. Ducking bullets.
Well, it's different. You've got to admit that.
Well, I'm not that progressive, Mr. Abbott. Me, I like my second honeymoons not different and fancy and new. I like everything the old-fashioned way.
the National Broadcasting Company has presented The Adventures of the Abbotts, starring Claudia Morgan and Les Damon as those popular personalities of detective fiction, Pat and Jean Abbott, created by Francis Crane. The cast included Tom Shirley and Joe DeSantis. The Adventures of the Abbotts was written by Howard Merrill. Original music composed and conducted by Dewey Bergman. Produced by Ted Lloyd and Bernard L. Schubert. Directed and recorded by Harry Frazee. This is Wayne Howell speaking. Next week, same time, same station. Another exciting adventure in crime with Pat and Jean in The Adventures of the Abbotts.
This is the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Welcome back. Well, another great, true adventure of the Abbotts. They're one of the detectives that has adventures rather than cases, and with a definite reason. This was very action-packed and intense drama mixed in to make this almost seem like a movie. This is one show I've definitely been very glad to bring to you. It's not one that people are aware of as much, because by the time it came on the air in 1954 and 55, people weren't listening to the radio as much. But to rediscover this in the 21st century is a real treat. Helen comments regarding the Blue Rocket Express. Really enjoyed this one, and I think this is in the same spirit, these detective adventure. I should point out that this is actually the last episode of The Adventure of the Abbotts featuring Les Damon. He left the series to be replaced by Mandel Kramer for the final 5 episodes that we're going to be playing. So we'll see Mandel Kramer, who is also known as Johnny Dollar number 8 from 1961 to 62. We'll get to see him as Pat Abbott after having seen him guest star a couple other episodes in the series. Well, we have another review over on iTunes from Notefinder, who says, I just love this podcast. Adam does a fantastic job, and I can't wait until it is time to go to bed so I can listen as I go to sleep. When I first found him, it was April of last year. I had to listen in order so I wouldn't get out of sync. So I would take 2 to 3 a night until I caught up. Adam, keep doing what you're doing. Well, thanks so much, and much appreciate your comments and support. We will be back tomorrow with Nero Wolfe. Well, before we do get started, I do want to remind you about Audible. You know, Audible brings you a great world of audio entertainment. It brings books to you when you don't have time to read. The Audible subscription includes 1 audiobook a month, plus a discount on any other audiobooks. Our listeners can try Audible out free for 2 weeks, and you get a free audiobook for trying it. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio to begin your free trial. Let's get into today's episode of Nero Wolfe, the case of the disappearing diamond.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ringing of that phone bell brings you mystery, adventure.
Nero Wolfe's office, Archie Goodwin speaking. Willie Inch, did you say? Just a second. Do you want to talk to a fellow named Willie Inch, which I doubt?
No.
He says he's got to see you. Got to.
Who is he?
Well, I'll ask. Mr. Wolfe doesn't recognize your name, Mr. Inch. He wants to know who you are. Just a second, I'll tell him. Mr. Inch says he's a sneak thief. He says you never heard of him, but he's heard of you. Should I tell him to get lost?
Wait a minute, Archie. Ask him what he wants.
Inch, Mr. Wolfe wants to know what you want to see him about. A phony murder rap. Says a phony murder rap.
It'd have to be, wouldn't it, Archie?
How do you mean?
Phony, I mean. Did you ever hear of a sneak thief committing murder if it could possibly be avoided? Yes, Archie. Tell Mr. Inch. I'll listen to his story.
ladies and gentlemen, it's that renowned genius who is the bulkiest, balkiest, most ponderous, and most brilliant detective in the world. Yes, none other than that chair-borne mass of unpredictable intellect, Nero Wolfe, created by Rex Stout and brought to you in a new series of adventures over this NBC network in the person of Mr. Sidney Greenstreet.
When Mr. Wolfe and I talk about this little difficulty, he calls it the case of Archie Goodwin and how he got hooked. However, I call it the case of the disappearing diamonds. I prefer my title. He prefers his. Anyhow, it started with an improbable character named Willie Inch.
That'll be our sneak thief, Archie. Let him in.
Okay, boss.
Okay?
Inch?
Yeah.
Come in. In there. I'll follow you. Mr. Wolfe, this is your client.
Mr. Inch?
Yeah.
Tall fellow. Must be over 6'6". Sit down.
Where?
Archie?
Here, Mr. Inch. This ought to be comfortable.
Well, Mr. Inch?
Look, Mr. Wolfe, they're going to claim that I killed a woman I never even touched. And I'm going to fry for something I never even done.
All right, Mr. Inch, how did you kill her?
I didn't. I never killed nobody in my life.
Mr. Inch, you say you're a thief. Can you prove it?
I got a record. Why?
I was wondering about that bulge in your pocket.
Oh, here? It's a silver cigarette lighter, ain't it? I guess it sort of dropped into my pocket as I was going by. You see the way it happened?
Never mind, Mr. Inch. Now tell me how you didn't kill the woman for whose murder you will fry.
Well, Mr. Wolfe, sir, it was like this. There was a window half open, you see, and I happened to crawl inside the house. But hey, now.
Well, Mr. Inch?
This is just between us, ain't it?
Possibly.
How do you mean?
Explain, Archie.
Mr. Wolfe said possibly.
Oh. Well, okay. So I happen to find myself in the bedroom, see? So I happen to sort of roam around, and I hear there's like a party going on. You know, people and music. So I lock the door.
So go on.
Let him tell it his own way, Archie. Well, Mr. Inch?
So that's the mistake I make.
Mistake?
Maybe I leave my fingerprints on the door.
So?
So later, a dame gets herself knocked off in the same room. And they look for fingerprints. And they find mine. I'm it. That's all. I got a record. So the chair.
I see. Pitiful case, isn't it, Archie?
Very, very mournful.
Inch.
Yes, sir?
I presume you came away with some souvenirs?
Oh, nothing. It wasn't worth the trouble. You know, just odds and ends, junk.
Have you got the junk with you?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Here.
Cigarette case, platinum. Lighter, gold. Vanity case, gold. That's all?
Positively.
Junk, the man says.
I promise nothing, Mr. Inch, but it might be better if you told the truth.
Me?
You.
Oh, well.
One square-cut emerald ring.
I just happened to find it. Here's something more.
A pewter ashtray.
Look, the room is dark. I can't see. Piles of coats on the beds and hats and handbags. I take what I find.
Why didn't you turn on the lights?
One of these big standing lamps. You know what I mean.
Go on.
I bump into it, and it scares the living... it scares me.
So?
I turn the switch. It don't work.
Archie.
That sounds like the law, boss.
The law.
Stay right where you are, Willie. May I suggest that there is a way to find out, Archie?
Okay. We don't want any.
Good morning, Goodwin. You remember me, your old friend, Inspector Kramer? 2 gentlemen with me are also with the department, Pearlie and Ostrakovich. May we come in?
What do you want?
We want a murderer, and we want some rocks worth $250,000. Does that answer your question?
What makes you think you'll find all those goodies here?
Come in, men. We know Willie Inch is here. Where is he?
Now, just a second.
We're coming with you, Goodwin.
Okay, Inspector, come along.
Archie?
The law.
That's Willie Inch. Frisk him. No weapons? Okay, just put the cuffs on him.
Inspector Kramer.
Oh, yes. Hello, Wolfe.
I want to tell you something about this man whom you and your men have so bravely captured in my office.
You don't need to tell me about him, Wolfe. We know about him.
True indeed.
Yes. We know he killed Mrs. Florence Avery March and stripped $250,000 worth of diamonds off her. That's all we need to know.
I didn't do no such a thing.
Where's the ice, Willie?
I never even seen none, honest.
Take him away, boys. I'll make the charge when I get back to my office.
Wait. Mr. Wolfe, sir.
Take him.
Look, I ain't done nothing, I tell you.
Inspector Kramer.
Yeah. We're going to have a little talk now, aren't we?
If necessary.
How do you mean?
Explain, Archie.
Mr. Wolfe means you're going to have a little talk, if necessary.
Very funny. I will now draw up a chair and show you why it's necessary. In the first place, $250,000 worth of diamonds makes it necessary.
Archie, if you please, a bottle of beer.
Okay. Will the inspector name his poison?
You know I never drink on duty.
And just for me, Archie, please.
On my way. While I opened a bottle of imported beer, it occurred to me that I had something to be grateful for. At least I wasn't in Willie Inch's enormous shoes. And as I went back to the office, I had time to wonder why Mr. Wolfe would stick his fat neck out for a no-good like Willie.
Thank you, Archie, and sit down, Archie. Inspector Kramer has a theory that may amuse you.
Nero Wolfe's office. It's for you, Inspector.
Hello, Kramer. Yeah? A gold cigarette holder? That's all? Okay.
Inspector, do you realize that you have already taken a great deal of my time?
Archie.
Yes, Inspector?
The great Mr. Wolfe just said I had a theory that might amuse you. Would you care to hear it?
I can hardly wait.
Okay. My theory is that both Wolfe and you are receivers of stolen property and possibly guilty of murder conspiracy.
So far, you got me in stitches.
Willie Inch, with a record as long as your arm, robs the home of Mrs. Florence Avery Marsh. He strangles her with a silk scarf, takes the diamond she's wearing, grabs everything else that's lying around, and then what?
Is it a question?
I'll tell you what.
He will, too. Archie, listen.
Then Inch brings the stuff here, the stuff that's piled on Wolfe's desk, and the diamonds. You want me to tell you where the diamonds are? They're in that safe right there.
Inspector Kramer, I know nothing about the diamonds. They are not in the safe, and they are not in the house. Now, you can take my word for it, or you can get a search warrant and make a fool of yourself. I'm going to have lunch.
By 2 o'clock, the newspapers were full of the murder of Mrs. Florence Avery March. The suspect was already in custody, caught at the home of Nero Wolfe, well-known private investigator. Some of the stolen jewelry had been recovered, but not the diamonds. Then we had a visit from Mr. Anson Stark, who had opened Mrs. March's door and found her dead. Stark was a big athletic guy of about 30 or so, with the large, capable hands of a surgeon or a laboratory worker. He seemed annoyed at the inconvenience we caused him, but that was only natural.
That's the story, Mr. Wolfe. I don't see how I can add anything more to it.
You had known Mrs. March for several years, huh?
Casually.
When you broke the door open, was it difficult?
Not very.
You were the first into the room?
There were 3 or 4 of us. We pushed in together.
You saw the body of Mrs. March immediately?
She was lying across the bed that was heaped with coats and hats and handbags.
You knew she was dead?
Of course not. In fact, somebody else discovered that she had been choked to death.
And who discovered that the diamonds were gone?
I don't know. I didn't.
Were there many diamonds, Mr. Stark?
No, just a few, but big ones. She wore them on a pendant around her neck.
Mr. Stark, I want to thank you again for having been so patient.
I have been patient, Mr. Wolfe. I have my own business to attend to.
Which is?
Oh, I have a small but hopeful enterprise. Electronics, tubes for radio and television, mostly experimental.
Well, that reminds me, Mr. Stark. When you entered the bedroom, was the light on or off?
Let me see. Of course, it was on. It must have been on. Why?
Just curiosity, Mr. Stark.
Oh? Anything more?
That's all, except thank you for coming here. Archie, will you take Mr. Stark to the door?
Mr. Stark departed like a man who'd been delayed by a petty annoyance. A few minutes later, the door buzzed, and I went expecting anything. Anything but what was standing on the threshold when I opened up. A honey blonde. Or, to put it another way, a blonde honey. I said hello. No, more like hello.
Are you Mr. Wolfe?
I'm his assistant, Archie Goodwin, and what can we do for you?
Well, I'm Valerie Ladd.
And I'm Archie Goodwin. Or did I tell you that?
Well, that's exactly where I came in. Well, I mean, where I thought you were going to ask me to come in.
Oh, come in. I'm sorry.
Oh, is he here?
Wolf?
Mm-hmm.
Does he know you?
No.
Is he expecting you?
No.
I see.
Of course you don't see, do you? Well, this is it, Mr. Goodwin. I'm a writer. Well, I may not look like it, but that's what I am, and I want to do a profile, a character study of Mr. Wolfe for a magazine.
Uh-oh.
Well, what's wrong?
Well, you see, there's a writer named Rex Stout.
Oh, I know. He's written a lot about Nero Wolfe, but, well, can't I write about him, too?
I don't know if he's going to like it, but you can't be shot for trying. Come on. Mr. Wolfe, this is Valerie Ladd.
Pardon me for not rising, Miss Ladd. It is not impolite. It is merely impracticable.
Miss Ladd wants to write about you for a magazine.
Please, Mr. Wolfe.
Nonsense.
Mr. Wolfe, if I could just spend a few hours with you, that would be enough.
Would it indeed?
Oh, yes.
Have you written much, Miss Ladd?
Oh, reams.
You know, the habits of writers interest me.
The habits?
Yeah, the writing habits. For instance, do you use a pen or a pencil? Do you dictate, or like most writers, do you do your own typing?
Mr. Wolfe, if you knew the hours and days and years that I've pounded a typewriter.
Of course. Archie.
Yes, sir?
Why don't you take Miss Ladd up and show her the orchids?
You never know about Nero Wolfe. At least I never do. This was something I would have bet against 1,000 to 1. Couldn't understand it. But I certainly couldn't complain.
Archie, look at this one. Oh, did you ever see anything so gorgeous?
Very pretty.
They're all just beyond belief.
Yeah?
But you're not even looking at them, Archie.
What? Oh!
Archie, are you always like this?
What do you mean like this?
Well, so distant and preoccupied.
Honey, you got me wrong. Completely. I was thinking.
Oh.
Yeah, about telephone numbers.
It's a lovely thing to think about. What can you think about telephone numbers?
I was thinking how some girls have them and some don't.
Oh, I see. Archie, I apologize.
For what?
I did have you wrong. You're not a bit distant.
I can be a lot closer than this, honey. What is it?
What's what?
The number.
Oh, it's in the book.
Yeah? No wonder.
Sound as if you don't believe me.
Oh, I believe you, but here's a telephone book here. Let's look it up together, shall we?
Archie.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I lied to you.
I was afraid of that, too.
Are you angry?
Well, I can take no for an answer, honey. Even when it's hard to take.
Archie, I've changed my mind. I want you to have my number. And I want you to use it, too.
You know, honey, I'm beginning to take an interest in this dialogue. Let's have it.
Okay. Olympia 93659.
And a very, very pretty number it is. Valerie Ladd, 2 D's.
Mm-hmm.
Olympia 93659. Honey blonde, gorgeous.
Oh.
Spelled gorgeous. There. What are we doing tonight, Olympia 9?
And I said that you were distant and preoccupied.
We were talking about tonight.
All right, Archie. Yes, I'd love it. Oh, these orchids, they're really beyond belief. And you won't even look at them.
True. I'm too busy looking at you.
Well, how do I look, Archie?
Beyond belief, honey. Beyond belief. Well, there goes the Goodwin luck again. It's a house phone, partner.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Okay. He wants us to come down.
Archie?
Yes, dear.
Even if he says no, we still have a date?
Honey, though the heavens fall. When we entered the office, Mr. Wolfe was frowning over a sheet of letter paper in his hand. He looked up and tossed the paper to me.
That is a peculiar thing, Archie. The sheet of letter paper. It just arrived. Since Miss Ladd is interested in detection, show it to her.
Thank you. Well, some sort of code, isn't it? QWERTYUIOP. That's all. What do you suppose it means?
You're kidding.
Archie.
Oh.
What? Did I say something wrong?
No.
Miss Ladd, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I haven't time for an interview just now. Goodbye, Miss Ladd.
Oh, but Mr. Wolfe.
Goodbye, Archie.
Say goodbye to Mr. Wolfe and let's go, honey.
Goodbye.
That's the way things can be around here. Well, here's the door, and shall we pause for station identification?
I'll wipe it off, Archie. There.
Thanks.
Well, what happened, Archie?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, Mr. Wolfe, I mean.
Oh.
Why did he suddenly want me to go?
Well, I'll tell you, though I don't know whether I should. That code message he showed you?
Yes.
Quirt you up?
You remember.
Yeah, sure. Because I use a typewriter. From left to right, it's the first bank of letters on any typewriter.
I see. It was a test.
Ah. And you flunked it, baby. You're no writer.
Archie, I can explain
Sure.
it.
Tonight.
Tonight, Archie. You do believe me, don't you, Archie?
Oh, of course, baby, of course.
Well, it's just that I was there at the party, when poor Florence was murdered. Then I read in the paper about, how they caught the man at Nero Wolfe's. And I always wanted to be a writer, so I thought if I could get an exclusive interview that would be a good way to start my career, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Pardon me a second, will you, Valerie? I got to make a phone call. There's a booth. It'll only take a minute or two.
Nero Wolfe speaking.
Archie, I'm at the Riviera with Valerie Ladd.
I'm happy for you, Archie.
I will remind you that I have not seen you since Valerie left the house.
I was otherwise occupied, Archie.
With orchids.
With orchids? What do you want, Archie?
Look, with that typewriter gag, you practically told me she was a phony, didn't you?
Of course.
Just for the record, how did you know?
Have you looked at her fingernails? She never touched a typewriter in her life. I wanted to be sure.
Okay, now do you want me to tell you something?
You mean that your charming companion Valerie was at the party when Mrs. March was murdered?
How did you know that?
Simple, Archie. I got a list of the guests from Inspector Kramer. Among them was the name of Valerie Laddway. Simple?
Ladd. Yeah, sure. Okay, what am I supposed to do about it?
Just hang on, Archie. Just hang on.
I went back to the honey blonde, the beautiful phony Valerie Laddway. I went back to the table where she should have been, but she wasn't there. I sat down and waited. Looked at my watch, 11:24. 11:32, no Miss Laddway. 11:45, I finally realized that not only Valerie, but her coat and bag were also absent. I called the waiter.
Yes, sir?
What happened to my friend?
The young lady left some time ago, sir.
Okay, give me the bill.
She paid it, sir.
She did?
Yes, sir. In fact, she said you gave her the money for it.
Yeah? Wait a minute. Well, I didn't know it, but she is certainly right.
Oh, my. Well, Archie, this is most thoughtless of you.
Sorry, I lost my keys. My money, too.
Your keys, Archie?
Yeah. Glad you were still up.
You lost Miss Laddway, too?
Definitely. I'm going to bed.
Good night, Archie.
You think it's funny, don't you?
Yes, Archie. Yes, I do.
Good night, Mr. Wolfe.
Archie.
Yeah?
Before you retire, one thing.
What?
Open the safe, will you? And leave it open.
Why?
Because there's nothing in it of importance. And it's a valuable safe, and I don't want it damaged. Good night, Archie.
At about 2 o'clock in the morning, I thought I heard a noise. I got up, put on the rest of my pajamas, picked up my gun, and went down to the office. The man had his head in the safe, and everything was scattered all over. I stepped inside the door. Put your hands behind your back and stand up.
Huh? Okay.
Now, just what are you after, Bud? When I woke up, I was alone on the office floor. I did not feel good. The place looked as if a hurricane had struck it. Every file drawer had been empty. I felt a draft from somewhere. Got to my feet, trying not to joggle my head too much. There was the front door standing open. I closed it gently. Then very, very gently, I groped my way to the kitchen for ice, water, and towels.
Archie.
What? Oh, didn't you hear me scream?
No. Is it bad?
It's better.
You're angry, aren't you?
Nuts.
What, Archie?
I said nuts, Mr. Wolfe. Nuts.
I'm sorry about what happened.
Yeah, you expected it.
But I didn't expect you to be caught by somebody behind you. You must have known there would be two of them.
Now, how would I know that? How?
Think of Mr. Ladway's delicate hands. Do you believe she intended to open the safe herself?
You think she stole my keys and so on? Well, let me tell you... Hey, wait. That guy was digging in the safe that... Then who hit me in the head?
Gee, someday you'll be the death of me. In the morning, will you tell Inspector Kramer I'd like to see him here?
Fuming and protesting, Kramer arrived about 1:30. When I let him into the office, Mr. Wolfe was gazing thoughtfully at the ground floor plan of the house of the late Mrs. Florence Avery March. We'd gotten it from the original architects. Wolfe looked up and almost smiled.
Thank you for coming to me, Inspector. You know how difficult it is for me to come to you.
Okay. What's up?
I take it you haven't found the diamonds.
No, not yet. We'll break inch down, though. Don't think we won't.
Oh, I'm sure. But this is what I want to ask you, and it's quite serious.
Okay. All right, what?
After the body was found, your men arrived at the house before anyone left.
Right.
And before anybody was allowed to go, every person was searched thoroughly.
Nobody could have gotten a pin or a needle out of that place.
I know something about police methods, and I believe you. Now, how thoroughly did you search the house itself?
Wolf, look. We've got that floor plan you're studying now. There are no hidden closets. Every square inch of that house has been examined. The diamonds aren't there. Willie Inch killed the dame and snatched the diamonds. What he did with them, we'll find out.
Possibly. Goodbye, Inspector.
At approximately 3:15, the postman arrived with an envelope for me. The envelope contained my keys, the bill from the Riviera, and the money left after the check was paid. At approximately 5:07 p.m., I discovered that Wolfe had been using the telephone all by himself. He explained. He was going to have a party. He had invited all of the guests who were at Mrs. Florence Avery March's somewhat fatal party, including Anson Stark, Willie Inch, and Valerie. Nero Wolfe, the natural-born ham, he made an entrance that would have been worthy of Queen Victoria in her heavier days. He sat in his oversized throne behind his oversized desk and beamed at the peasants. Valerie moved toward me.
I'm sorry, Archie, but you must know why I did it.
Why?
Well, you said I wasn't a writer. I wanted to prove that you weren't a detective.
Did you take the stuff while we were dancing?
I could have, couldn't I?
You could have bumped me on the head last night, too, couldn't you?
Oh, Archie.
Let it go. It was humiliating, though.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you realize the purpose of this party. We want to know who killed Mrs. March and what became of her diamonds. Mr. Inch.
Yeah?
When you visited the room where the body was found, the room was dark?
The bulb was burned out. I tried to turn it on.
There had been a body on the bed. Would you have seen it?
Maybe. With all those coats, maybe not.
Sure. Mr. Stark?
Yes, I said the light was on. Perhaps I was wrong. What of it?
You're engaged in the manufacture of tubes for radio and television, huh?
I told you that.
Inspector Kramer.
Yeah, what?
A light bulb was found in the wastebasket in the room where Mrs. March died.
Yeah. Like you said, we tried the bulb in the socket and it worked. So what?
One more question. Does anybody remember whether Mr. Stark was carrying a bundle or a package under his arm when he arrived at Mrs. March's party?
Oh, I do, Mr. Wolfe. I think he had a box of flowers.
That's true. I did bring flowers.
No, Mr. Stark. That box contained 2 parts of a light bulb and some adhesive. During the party, you strangled Mrs. March, put the diamonds into the light bulb, assembled the thing, and screwed it into the lamp socket. Archie, stop him. Really, Archie, it was quite simple. Light bulbs are only a stem glass bowl and a brass sheet. Yet nobody, including the police, would think of looking inside one. Mr. Stark could come back and collect his treasure any time after the excitement had died down. What's the matter, Archie?
I got a headache.
Valerie Ladby. Poor girl. She and whoever the man was with her must have thought the diamonds were here. That bump on your head will be better in the morning. A bottle of beer, please, Archie.
I'm going to bed.
Yes. Why must you place such confidence in women? Remember what happened to Mark Antony and Samson and Archie Goodwin. Good night, Archie.
You have been listening to The New Adventures of Nero Wolfe, starring Sidney Greenstreet. Tonight's transcribed story by Mindred Lord was based on the characters created by Rex Stout, produced and directed by J. Donald Wilson. This is an Edwin Fadiman production. In the cast were Harry Bartell as Archie Goodwin, and G.G. Pearson, Bud Heaston, Gray Stafford, Dick Ryan, and Bill Johnstone. Next week at this same time, Nero Wolfe and Archie will bring you The Case of the Midnight Ride. Don Stanley speaking. 3 chimes mean good times on NBC.
Welcome back. This was a pretty clever mystery. I also think it's quite interesting in terms of representing a bit of the authors of the radio plays, kind of shifting the show around so that it matches more with what's in the book. Earlier episodes of Nero Wolfe had Wolfe and Kramer on kind of almost chummy terms, and with Wolfe frequently making exceptions to his no leaving the house on business rule. Doubtless the writers and NBC heard from the public about some of the things that didn't seem to ring true through to the book, so there have been some adjustments. Of course, Sidney Greenstreet puts his own stamp on Wolfe with the laugh. That's always going to be part of it. Wolfe never quite laughed as much in the books as Greenstreet does, but part of the reason people enjoy Greenstreet is this very distinctive laugh. I also love the solution to this case. This was very clever and commonsensical at the same time. Regarding Mr. Greenstreet, Tony says, I always liked Sidney Greenstreet. He always played a class act as a villain or detective. And usually was the villain. There's one film I'm aware of where he played a detective, but it really wasn't a mystery and his detective wasn't the main character. But Greenstreet played a lot of characters very similar to the fat man he played in The Maltese Falcon, and really left a big impression on the silver screen, particularly when you consider how old he was when he started in films at age 62, and continued to act on screen for about 8 years before he took on Nero Wolfe. He really defined the the archetype of how you create a villain who is sophisticated, cultured, and yet still a very dangerous customer, and has been imitated countless times. He truly provided the template for a lot of authors' imaginations to feed on. Also, I have to say I love that reference about Rex Stout thrown into the middle. That was very cute. Finally, we got one more comment from a listener from Podcast Alley. Thanks for this podcast. Well, thank you for your comment, and I encourage everybody, cast your vote this month, and let us know what your favorite show is as well when you vote, and we'll give you the totals at the end of the month. Remember, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Well, that'll do us for now. We'll be back tomorrow with Let George Do It. Well, before we get into tonight's show, I do want to let you know about something new we've added to the site. Every week, on the weekend, I do a little short article. It can be a book review, a look at a classic detective TV show, or a look at some other classic venture. Generally, it will be about Golden Age entertainment, detective stories, or a combination of both. Well, these articles are available for free at greatdetectives.net, but I've gone ahead and we have added these Great Detectives of Old Time Radio articles to the Kindle store, which means that you can subscribe to it and read our articles right on your Kindle. And you can try this service out for free for 2 weeks. Just go to greatdetectives.net. You can click the link to start your trial there. Or just put a search on Amazon for in the Kindle store for Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. And also, remember, we still offer apps for the iPod, iPhone, and for Android phones. Well, let's get into today's episode of Let George Do It, The Dark Chain.
Personal notice, danger's my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you got a job from me, George Valentine. Write full details. Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. The Dark Chain, another adventure of George Valentine.
Dear Mr. Valentine, perhaps if my husband were still alive, I wouldn't need your help. He was the strongest man in the entire county, but he's been dead a long time now, and his brother, who manages the farm, can't see any farther than the cows and horses and the fields and the bright side of everything. Now, Buddy, please, just play with your toys, dear. Oh, here, I'll open that safety pin for you. Can't you manage? Now, you'll be quiet, won't you? There is no bright side, Mr. Valentine, when my only neighbor for miles should be in prison. And unless he's put there soon, heaven knows what will happen. Buddy, you'll tear it. Now, that's your nice dog doll that Uncle Simon gave you for Christmas. Can't you? There, that's better. I'm not begging for sympathy, Mr. Valentine, but I'm a woman who already has all she can bear. All the sorrow and the tragedy and the burden. Buddy, don't do that to your dog. It's your doll. Buddy, don't. Now, don't. Go outside, dear. Go outside, won't you? Go and see if you can help in the fields.
I like my chickens. Don't you, Mama?
Of course, Buddy.
I wouldn't hurt my chickens. Would you?
Dear, please.
All right, Mama. Bye.
Please help me, Mr. Valentine. Sincerely, Mrs. Purcell. 17 now, Mr. Valentine.
Well, he's certainly big.
His mind isn't.
Yeah, I understand.
But he's really quite gentle. But there are things that he can do on the farm to be useful. Those huge log chains he carries, why, he can pull stumps out of a field better than a team of horses.
Well, Mrs. Purcell, isn't there anything that...
No, there's nothing that can be done.
Well, that's too bad.
No, I'm not sorry for myself. He's just a little boy, that's all. And he's my son, Mr. Valentine. He's my...
Yeah, your wife, sure, of course. Well, Mrs. Purcell, you asked us out here to visit his friends or something. A little quiet investigation of a neighbor.
Yes, you weren't very specific.
His name is Luke Schroeder.
Schroeder?
Half a mile down the road. He's always lived there, but he hasn't been around much. He's been in prison.
Oh.
He's on parole now. He can be sent back if he does anything wrong. And the other night, something was stolen.
You mean that this...
No, now, please, let me tell it in my own way. A brooch. You know, one of those delicate, old-fashioned cameo brooches. It was my grandmother's. I hadn't seen it for some time. I never go out anywhere. But it was in the storeroom in a little box. Well, Buddy wanted to look at the jewelry. That's what he calls it. So I took out the box, and the brooch was missing.
I see. But you say Buddy likes jewelry.
Yes. Outside, he couldn't take his eyes off this naughty thing here on my purse.
Oh, Buddy wouldn't take it. Oh, Buddy doesn't ever touch anything that isn't his. Besides, I asked him later. It didn't even register. He just said it was bad to take things, especially chickens.
What?
A weasel killed chickens the other night.
Oh. Well, how do you know this brooch was taken just recently if you haven't looked in the box for a long time?
But I have, a week or so ago. I know it's been in the last week.
Uh-huh. Is that all, Mrs. Purcell?
Luke Schroeder is a thief. That's what he was in prison for. He stole jewelry before from a store in town.
Well, there's nothing you've told us that proves he stole it. And even if we discovered some proof, all we could do is turn it over to the local police.
I've seen the police. I've talked to the sheriff.
Yeah, well, what'd he do?
He was too busy to bother.
Well, look, I'm sorry, but from what you've told me, it doesn't seem...
Oh, excuse me, sis.
Simon, won't you please... this is Mr. Valentine.
Yes, we met downstairs.
Oh, what have you got there in the crate? Oh, George, look at them. Little baby chicks.
Uh-huh. Cute little rascals.
Oh.
Just fixing the bed for them under the kitchen stove.
All right, Simon, but right now...
Weasel got to Buddy's chickens, you know. Thought he'd like some more to play with. Only... What's this? Here's a funny thing. Found it there under the stove. Thought you might like...
What?
Well, his little doll, see?
It's a little dog doll, isn't it?
Yeah. Only its neck is all twisted around.
No, it's been torn. The head's been torn clear off, see?
I did that.
Hmm?
I was fixing the little doll, that's all. I tore its head off so I could put some more stuffing in it.
Well, I guess...
Now, Simon, please, we're busy. Can't you take those chicks downstairs?
Yeah, they're getting cold. Here, I'll carry them for you, Simon.
What? Oh, but Mr. Valentine...
Don't worry, Mrs. Purcell. We can talk later. Yeah, I think we'll be staying around here for a while after all.
Oh, there's a bright side to Buddy, Mr. Valentine.
You mean because at least he's able to help you here on the farm?
Oh, not much. So clumsy he can't even harness up the horses.
Oh?
Then he gets an idea of his own, sticks with it. Nothing else matters. You know how little kids do. No, I was thinking more, he's happy. You know what I mean? He's not bothered by thinking he's smarter than he is, like most of us are in this world.
Simon, I was thinking more about his mother.
Upset, ain't she?
Yeah, that's right.
I used to think it'd be less strain on her if we put the boy in one of those homes or something, but she bristles out like a porcupine if you haven't mentioned.
I'm upset right now about something.
Oh. Well, I'm glad you're here. friends are good. She needs friends. I don't know what it is, Mr. Valentine. She is upset bad. I suppose maybe it's only she has trouble seeing the bright side. What's the matter? What are you looking at?
Who's that girl over there? Walking out there by the barn.
Her. Maria.
Maria?
Luke Schroeder's wife, down the road.
Oh?
Something, ain't she?
Yeah. Luke's wife, huh?
If you'd like to take a little walk around, I can show
No, thanks. We'll look at the farm later, Simon. I've got a couple of things to do right now.
Well, George, if you want to talk to Luke's wife...
Come on.
Where's your uncle, buddy?
I don't know.
What are you doing? The matter, cat? Got your tongue?
You go away.
Why? It's a free country, isn't it?
I don't like you. I said...
You do like those chains of yours, don't you?
These? I can pull stumps right up out of the ground. I can...
I bet you can't throw them all the way across the barn.
I bet I can. I bet I can. I bet I can. See?
That's better. You are a strong little boy, aren't you?
Buddy, not a little boy.
Why don't you like me?
You got yellow hair.
Mm-hmm. I just washed it, too. And I got a new dress on with a sparkly belt, see? Why don't you like me, buddy?
Maria.
Yes, buddy?
Do you belong to Luke like my chickens belong to me? Stop laughing.
I'm sorry, buddy. I told you it's a free country, isn't it?
Stop laughing. It's not funny. They're dead.
What?
My chickens are dead in the nighttime. They're all dead. And when you're dead, you don't breathe anymore. I hate you.
Buddy, what are you talking about? Tell me, Maria.
Oh, George.
Come on, buddy, what is
He's crying.
Maria likes you, buddy.
Oh, George, that girl's the most awful.
All right, get out of the way. Huh? Go on, I said get out of the way, whoever you are. Slow down, Buster. Where is she? Where is she? Come on, Angel, we're in the town.
Yeah? I was just wondering when you were going to...
Get back to the house. Get back home.
What? Your supper's ready, Luke. It's already just waiting, and it's... Hey, who are they?
We're friends or buddies, Mr. Schroeder. Stay out of this, mister. Go on, Maria, beat it.
I will not. You got a fine lot of nerve in front of people.
Hey, yo. You hear me?
How do you like that, mister? How do you like a...
Yeah, he's real tough, isn't he, lad? I said stay out of it.
Cool off, you big mug. I'm going. Bye, mister.
Well, so you're the great Luke Schroeder.
Yeah. I know who you are, too, Mac. Now you beat it.
No, don't go away, mister. Don't go away, mister. Don't go away, mister. Don't.
Shut up, you crazy idiot. Buddy, leave Luke alone.
Oh, mister, just leave me alone with this freak.
Buddy hates
You're not going to argue with me now, are you, mister?
It's not going to do you any good.
Buddy hates
Buddy,
Luke.
stop it.
Buddy hates
Buddy, it's all right. Stop it.
Buddy hates
You be quiet,
Luke.
buddy. It's all right, buddy.
Buddy hates
Come on, get out of
Buddy
here.
hates
Buddy, stop it. Come on, Luke. Come on, run, will you? Run! All right, let go of it. Let go of it. Crazy jailbird, you sure take the cake for brains. That poor kid back there's 5 times your size.
All right, I say. Look, mister. The other night, a weasel killed some chicken at Buddy's. Everybody in the county knows it's a weasel. They've had the same trouble. Only that crazy, overgrown bird brain gets an idea in his head, it sticks there like concrete.
Oh, what do you mean?
Come over here, in the back of my car. Something I just found on the road. Something I had longer than Maria. Something never killed a chicken in its life. A dog? Yeah, my dog. At least it used to be. Before it was beat to death with log chains.
return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. No one likes to get up and get going on a chilly fall morning, and your car is no exception. For the gasoline in your car is sensitive to the weather, too. But it's no problem when you use Chevron Supreme gasoline. It's climate-tailored. Based on year-round weather reports, it's tailored to each different season and to the different altitude and temperature zones throughout the West. That's why you can count on it for faster starts every time, for faster, smoother pickup in traffic, and for extra ping-free power on hills. Try a tank full of Chevron Supreme tomorrow. Right away, you'll notice how much better your car responds to this premium quality gasoline. You can't buy a better gasoline for today's high-compression engine. Ask for Chevron Supreme at standard stations and at independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean we take better care of your car. Back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. You meet Buddy Purcell, who is both an enormous man and a small child at the same time. His mother first called you to try to locate a cameo brooch that she says has been stolen. She's even sure who stole it, Luke Schroeder, who lives down the road. But if you're anything like George Valentine, you're much more interested in something else besides missing trinkets, like dogs, for instance. First a toy doll dog that had been torn and mutilated. And now Luke's dog, a real live dog. Only not anymore.
Well, there it is, Angel. Those log chains he lugs around are dark in a couple of places.
Dried blood.
Well, look now. How about it, buddy? Come on, kid. How about it?
I don't think he even understands us, Mr. Valentine.
Well, look, kid, you're a big boy now. You don't need to cry. Did you get mad at the dog? Look, buddy, did you kill the dog?
Let me go. Let me go.
Oh, George, we ought to wait until his mother gets back from town.
Yeah, Mr. Valentine. I've never seen the boy like this.
Now, listen to me, both of you. I get rid of that guy, Luke, all right, but it wasn't easy. And the kind of trouble he's liable to cause isn't exactly legal.
What do you mean?
He's headed for town to buy himself a drink or two, and he still says he's going to kill Buddy.
I'm not afraid of anybody named Schroeder.
Buddy going outside.
Oh, now, look, wait a minute, kid. We're friends of yours. We've got...
I killed a dog once. You know that?
You did? Well, all right, kid.
I took my chains and I swung and I swung and I swung and it killed him. It was Luke's dog. It killed my chickens, didn't it, Uncle Simon?
Oh, Buddy, we've talked to other farmers on the phone. They saw your chickens. It wasn't a dog.
He gets an idea he never
I
let go.
hate Luke. I hate Luke. He stole Mama's jewelry.
Did he?
Mama told you. I heard her. She told you. Let go of me. Please let go of me. Please.
Buddy, is that any way to act? Now, Buddy, it's... Mr. Valentine, what's this he was talking about, a brooch?
Oh, well, it's a cameo thing. Mrs. Purcell said it was stolen. She thought Luke Schroeder took it.
Cameo?
Uh-huh.
Maybe Luke did. I saw a cameo just yesterday. Girl wearing it.
What?
Mm-hmm. It was Luke's wife. That Maria. Say, ain't she something, though?
Yeah. Something is something, all right. Sorry, we've been waiting for you, Mrs. Purcell.
Have you?
Yes, I think it's time we had a little talk about Buddy.
I'm so late getting back. It's so late serving supper. You haven't had a thing to eat.
Oh, we don't mind. Sit down, won't you, Mrs. Purcell?
No, not now. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Purcell. You got us out here with a story about a brooch being stolen. Maybe by Luke Schroeder. And maybe Luke did take it. I don't know.
Of course, Mr. Valentine, that's right.
The only reason you pointed a finger at him is because you want to get rid of him. Get him out of the neighborhood. Is that right?
He's a troublemaker.
You mean for Buddy, he is?
He teases him. He picks on him like a bully.
Yeah, I know. And his wife, Maria's no better. She could get anybody in trouble, even Luke. But the person you're really afraid of is Buddy himself.
What?
You're afraid of his violence.
No, he's always been so kind, so calm. It's just that Luke is...
Oh, well, Luke, he's on parole. I can see the sheriff about him. I don't like guys who pull knives on people anyway. But what I mean is, you'd better be thinking of doing something about Buddy.
No, What's that?
Well, it's just the wind outside, that's all. Hey, I guess you've lived in fear, haven't you? In fear of the things your own son might do, and nobody's big enough to stop him from.
Oh, please not now. Please, Mr. Valentine,
I don't like
please.
what I'm saying, but it seems...
George, wait a minute. Mrs. Purcell, where have you been?
What?
Oh, I know you've been in town shopping. But I heard your car drive up quite a little while before you came inside here.
Oh, leave me alone.
And you've been so frightened just now that you've hardly heard it. Where were you? What's happened?
Nothing. Leave me alone, both of you.
Mrs. Purcell, you've also kept your hand in your pocket. Why?
No, leave me alone.
I have to...
George. Oh. George. A cameo brooch. So that's why you had your hand in your pocket.
Where did you get this, Mrs. Purcell? Come on now, where'd you get it?
Buddy.
Well, where did he get it?
I don't know. He just gave it to me outside and ran.
Outside? But, George, Buddy was in his own room a little while ago.
Come on. Well, he's not back here yet.
He's still outside. George, what's that?
Wait a minute. Another doll.
Oh.
Yeah. A little girl doll. And Brooksy, its head. Look, its head's all twisted. It's all...
The brooch. Brooch. And the doll. Maria! Oh. Maria's dead, isn't she, George?
Brooksy, that's an understatement.
With the chain.
Yeah. Bruises. Even scratches on the floor. Chains, all right.
George, look. Look at her blouse here. Two little tiny holes.
Yes, so what?
Well, it's where the brooch was pinned. See the mark of the clasp? This is where Buddy got it. Before he took it outside to give to his mother. Mrs. Purcell must have guessed where it came from. Well, I guess there's nothing to do.
But to keep looking, Angel.
What?
Something I noticed outside a second ago.
Huh?
Her husband Luke went into town, didn't he?
Well, yes.
Well, I saw something on the lawn, there by the bushes. Here we are. A hat, see?
Oh, it's the one he had on earlier.
Uh-huh.
Well, George, Luke's been here. Well, it could have been at supper, and he could have left his hat
on a windy night like tonight? Oh, no, Angel. He went into town, all right. I just think he got back, that's all. Yeah, sure. There's his car on the side of the house.
And he left the car door open. Georgie was in a hurry, running maybe, and lost his hat. Why, maybe it wasn't Buddy. Maybe it was Luke who came back here.
Oh, that's a man's voice. Come on, this way. There he is.
Oh.
Hey, Luke.
Oh, no. The chains.
Luke, can you hear me? Luke, listen, can you hear me? What happened?
Chase. He was waiting for me. I'd seen him earlier on the road with the chain. I ran. He chased me. Hit me.
Oh, George, can't we get him back to the house?
It's too late.
What are you going to do?
Look, this just happened, Brooksy. It just happened. Don't you get it? We interrupted it.
You mean in someplace right around?
Shh. Wait a minute. Yeah. It's the chains. Hear them?
Oh, this crazy wind, you can't tell which direction.
Across the road, Angel. That little patch of woods. Come on.
What?
Oh, George, you're not good.
I said, come on. We can see him if he runs forward across the fields in the moonlight.
Oh.
Yeah, come on, in here someplace.
Mr. Valentine! Mr. Valentine! Oh, there you are.
Well, hello, Simon.
I have been chasing after you as fast as I could. I saw what had happened back there. And Luke, too.
Oh, you did, huh?
Yes, I wanted to. What's that?
It's James. George.
Yeah, still in there.
The woods.
Huh? Come on now. A little more to the left, I think.
Mr. Valentine, you're not going after Buddy when he's like this.
Why not?
George?
But we can get the sheriff here in half an hour. Buddy wouldn't have time to leave the property. He wouldn't even know enough to.
Right now, we only have to search a tiny patch of woods.
But, George, there's no one else he can hurt except us. Oh, we're crazy.
5 times as strong as an ox, Mr. Valentine. You've seen it yourself. We can't handle him.
He's clumsy.
What difference does that make?
Oh, George, please don't. He's moving. Listen.
No, he's not. He's back to the right again, through here. I still say he's clumsy. He's got hands like baseball gloves.
Mr. Valentine.
So clumsy he can't even harness up the horses.
He's closer, George.
You know, I'll bet Buddy can't even open a safety pin.
What?
Can you imagine what he'd look like trying to unfasten the pin on a delicate cameo brooch?
Huh?
How about that, Simon? You should have torn off Maria's blouse. It would have looked more like Buddy did it that way.
George.
That's the way you wanted everything to look, isn't it? But you made that one little mistake. What did you do after you killed her and took the brooch? Just give it to Buddy, knowing no one would believe where he got it?
I don't understand. Mr. Valentine, the chains. He's right in here with the chains.
Oh, yeah, sure, Buster. The chains are the weapon, all right. That's why I'm going after them right now instead of later. In a little tiny patch of woods, a man couldn't run away without being seen. But he could come out of the woods and pretend he came from someplace else like you did.
No, I didn't. Buddy's right there. Look
out.
out.
I search those woods and don't find Buddy, and instead I find... Sure, there they are. The chains, Simon. Right where you left them. Hanging on a branch, swaying in the wind. No, you don't, Buster. I guess you don't mind if I use the chains to tie you up. Yeah, some of it was a guess, Mrs. Purcell.
George seemed to think he should have a little of the kind of faith you have in your boy.
How could you, after the dog and those dolls?
Well, the second doll Simon planted himself, and the first one, well, Buddy gets an idea and sticks with it. But that doesn't say where he got the idea.
It's Simon who's been making him so upset. He gave him that stubborn idea that Luke's dog had killed his chicken.
Luke's dog? He did kill the dog, Miss Brooks.
Yeah, well, he threw a chain at it, like he said. But I think you'll find Simon was the one who, well, added the finishing touch.
There's an awfully easy way for Simon to get out of a nasty spot. To set up a crime that would be blamed on an abnormal kid.
And the spot's Maria.
Yeah. The little trouble girl Simon unthinkingly gave your brooch to. Oh, she was something, all right. And Simon must have lived in terror of that tough husband finding out.
Luke gave us another clue, you know, Mrs. Purcell.
Yeah, he was attacked because he'd seen someone with chains on the road. He didn't say who, but certainly Buddy wouldn't think in terms of trying to kill a suspicious witness.
Oh, no. And Buddy is really kind when you know him. He's really... Oh, no. You were right, Mr. Valentine. I'll find a place where they'll take good care of Buddy.
Of course you will.
But I'll always be near him. I'll always be near my son.
Oh, but I wish there were a happier ending for her, George.
Oh, I don't know, Brooksy. Remember what Simon said? At least Buddy's not bothered by thinking he's smarter than he is, like most of us are.
Well, yes,
Mr.
but
Valentine.
Wait a minute.
Mr. Valentine. Mr. Valentine. Goodbye. Goodbye. Hope you have a nice time. Hope you be happy.
Oh.
Thanks, Buddy. Same to you.
What's the one biggest cause of wear in your car's engine? Automotive engineers have proved that internal corrosive rust is responsible for 80% of all engine wear. It starts the moment the ignition is turned off, the result of acid-laden moisture attacking cylinder walls and other vital parts. But when you rely on RPM motor oil, you stop this 80% of wear completely. That's because RPM is specially compounded to keep a moisture-proof film on internal metal at all times. With RPM on those vital parts, rust can't harm the engine, even though your car stands idle for days or weeks. No wonder this premium quality motor oil is first choice in the West. It's the oil that stops 80% of engine wear. Why not try it tomorrow? Ask for RPM motor oil at independent Chevron gas stations and at standard stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George with Francis Robinson as Brooksy. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Georgia Backus as Mrs. Purcell, William Boucher as Buddy, Louise Arthur as Maria, Herbert Butterfield as Simon, and Tony Barrett as Luke. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, I have to admit, this one did keep me guessing. I guessed half right. I did figure, and this was only slightly annoying that they used a verbal clue, but that I guessed that the brooch had been removed in such a way that it wouldn't be likely for the kid to have actually done it. I just guessed wrong who did it. I thought it was Luke right up until Valentine found him strangled. And I was kind of attached to the theory. I was sitting there listening like, well, could he just be faking having strangled himself with the chains? Nope, I was wrong about who committed the crime. And this was another good episode that mixed in some solid drama as it worked through the story. And really did some unique things for the detective genre. We do have Tim writes regarding an episode from a couple weeks ago, the Rose Petal Staircase. I felt a strong Tennessee Williams influence. The Let George Do It was from 1949. And The Glass Menagerie won the Pulitzer in 1948. The movie was yet to come, but I'm sure the writers had seen the play. The Rose Petal Staircase has a different feel than most episodes, very airy with some heavy-handed symbolism thrown in. Similar to structure to The Glass Menagerie, with solid marble exchanged for fragile glass figurines. One is breakable, the other has a character broken upon it. I was never a big Liz Taylor fan, but might have liked her more if George and Brooksy were in the background of Night of the Iguana or Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, investigating a mystery and wrapping up a case before the curtain drops. That's an interesting what if. And I do think that the writers of Let George Do It definitely were influenced by some of the existing works out there. I was reading through one radio episode log, for example, where the author of the log compared the episode of Let George Do It in question to Gaslight. Well, I don't mean this episode, but another episode they compared to Gaslight. But I think they do it in an original way. It doesn't look hokey at all. Well, that'll do it for now. We'll be back tomorrow with Sherlock Holmes. Before we do get started, I do want to let you know about Netflix, particularly for our Canadian listeners, which are about a tenth of our audience. Netflix is now available for streaming only in Canada. And they just signed a deal with Paramount to add even more films to the Canadian library. You can try Netflix out for free, get access to the thousands of videos offered if you're in Canada by going to netflixca.greatdetectives.net. For everyone else in the U.S., it's netflix.greatdetectives.net. Well, we're going to get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, The Adventure of the Dying Detective.
Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo present the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson and Tom Conway as Sherlock Holmes. Now, once again, we find ourselves in Dr. Watson's comfortable book-lined study. A blazing log crackles cheerily on the hearth. A cordial smile of welcome beams on the good doctor's friendly countenance.
Well, good evening, Mr. Bell. Sit down, sit down.
Thank you. It isn't often you find such a perfect combination as this. Cozy room, cheerful fire, comfortable armchair. Not to mention an expert storyteller.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. You're very kind.
A setup like this takes your mind off your worries and troubles. So don't be surprised if I just sit back and relax and let you carry on.
Well, that's what I'm here for. I've always said there's nothing like a good detective story for mental recreation. Most of our great men of affairs have been addicted to them, you know. Presidents, prime ministers, scientists, and businessmen.
And the Sherlock Holmes adventures still head the list of all detective stories. What's it going to be tonight?
Well, tonight, as I said last week, I'm going to tell you about the greatest shock that Sherlock Holmes ever gave me.
The greatest shock? It must have been some voltage.
You'll find that out, Mr. Bell, as soon as you've had your little talk with our listeners.
Good. Men, well-groomed hair helps so much in giving a man that prosperous, clean-cut appearance. And I'm sure you'll be interested to hear why Kreml Hair Tonic is preferred among America's top-flight executives by men at the top. Kreml never plasters the hair down with sticky goo, which makes your hair and scalp feel so dirty. It never gives hair that old-fashioned, greasy, patent leather look. You see, Kreml is a very highly specialized hair tonic. It contains a unique and utterly different combination of hair grooming ingredients that's never been duplicated in any other hair tonic. That's why Kreml keeps unruly hair so neatly in place longer, with such a handsome, healthy-looking luster. What I especially like about Kreml is that after you use it, you can run your hand back over your hair and your hair never feels sticky or dirty. No greasy film comes off on your hand or your hatband. Yet Kreml keeps hair in perfect order from morning till night, looking so healthy and handsome. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. Now, Dr. Watson, how about the greatest shock Sherlock Holmes ever gave you?
Well, it was in the second year of my married life. I hadn't seen Holmes for almost a month due to having successfully resumed my medical practice. When one day I received an urgent note from Mrs. Hudson.
Mrs. Hudson, she was Holmes' landlady in Baker Street.
She certainly was, and a long-suffering woman she was, too. Why she stood for Holmes, I never could fathom. His habits were calculated to try the patience of a saint. Yes, he was easily the worst tenant in London, and yet Mrs. Hudson adored him.
A case of the king can do no wrong.
Exactly, and yet she stood in the deepest awe of him and never dared interfere, however dangerous his proceedings might seem. So you can imagine my feelings when our note said that Mr. Holmes was in a dreadful state, and she considered it serious enough to disobey his commands and to send for me. Well, I snatched my hat and medical case and set out for Baker Street post-haste. A terrified Mrs. Hudson greeted me on the doorstep, her face stained with tears.
Oh, Dr. Watson, thank God you got my note. Come in, sir, come in.
Well, Mrs. Hudson, what's up? What's happened to Mr. Holmes?
Oh, Dr. Watson, it's terrible. Just to see him lying there like that. I can't stand it any longer. He's breaking my heart.
No, Mrs. Hudson, this won't do. You know, pull yourself together. What's the matter with Mr. Holmes?
Oh, he's dying.
What?
Yes, sir. For 3 days he's been sinking. Hasn't taken a mouthful of food. I doubt if he'll last a day out.
Well, why didn't you send before me before?
He wouldn't let me. Oh, you know what he's like, Dr. Watson, when he's got his mind set against anything.
Yes, indeed I do.
But this morning, when I went in and saw him there, his bones sticking out of his face, his great eyes all bright with fever, and his lips with that awful crust on them, and his hands twitching and twitching, I couldn't stand it any longer. I couldn't stand by and watch him die, could I? I thought to myself, orders or no, I'm sending for you.
Yes, I should hope so.
So I said to him, but Mr. Holmes, this is an extremity. He didn't say anything. I don't think he even heard me, Doctor. He's out of his head most of the time, croaking and moaning to himself. Oh, Dr. Watson, it's a pitiful sight. Poor Mr. Holmes.
No. Perhaps it's not as bad as you think. I pray heaven it's not. Well, I'll go up and see what's to be done.
Oh, yes, sir. But I'm afraid he's not long for this world. Poor Mr. Holmes.
No, Mrs. Hudson, you pull yourself together. He mustn't know how you feel about him. It'd upset him. He hates to be pitied. I'd better go in alone.
Yes, sir.
Holmes? I say, Holmes.
I doubt if he can hear you, sir. You better go right in.
Very well. Oh, good heavens. He is sick.
Oh, Dr. Watson, you must save him.
Mrs. Hudson, you stay outside.
Running round and round in a circle. Faster. He's catching up to him.
Holmes, old fellow, it's me.
Eh?
Holmes, it's me, Watson. Don't you know me?
Watson? Oh, yes. I seem to remember. Watson, of course. So she sent for you after all. I wondered how long she could hold out.
Holmes. My poor fellow.
Yes, we seem to have fallen on evil days. Hey, Watson? Never thought you'd see me in this shape, did you? Oh, I forbear at your funeral, and now look at me.
It's all right, old chap. We'll fix you up. Have you about again in no time. Just let me take your pulse.
Stand back, Watson, stand back. If you really are alive, don't touch me. Don't touch me.
But why?
Because I wish it. Isn't that enough?
Well, I only wanted to help.
Then do as I say. I know what's wrong with me. I'm the only man in London who does it. It's a terrible disease and contagious. That's it, Watson. Contagious. By touch. So keep your distance or you'll catch it, too.
Great heavens, Holmes. Do you suppose that matters to me at a time like this? It wouldn't affect me in the case of a stranger. Do you imagine it prevent me from doing my duty to my best friend?
Stand back, Watson. It's out of your power. You can do nothing. You stand where you are. I'll talk. You mustn't excite me. It might be fatal.
Very well. I must, but what is this sickness?
A colic disease from Sumatra. Only a few men understand it. I contracted it down along the docks from the Oriental sailors. I've been doing some recent research down there. It had a medico-criminal aspect. Very interesting, Watson. Very interesting. Asiatic diseases, Asiatic crude, strange pathological possibilities. But water doesn't run uphill. It's funny, hey, Watson. Water, you can't write in water. I've tried, but you can't.
Holmes, you're not yourself. A sick man is like a child. You could be master elsewhere, but when it comes to the sick room, it's time for me to take charge. I'm going to examine your symptoms and treat you.
Stop it. If I've got to have a doctor, at least get me one I can trust.
Holmes, don't you trust me?
As a friend, certainly, but facts are facts. You're just a general practitioner, not very much knowledge or experience, and very often muddled. Yes, decidedly muddled.
Holmes, that remark is unworthy of you. It shows the state of your nerves.
Very well. What do you know about Tapanuli fever? Or the Black Formosa corruption?
Well, I've never heard of either of them.
You see?
Very well, let me call in Dr. Ainstree. He's the greatest living authority on tropical diseases, and he happens to be in London now. I can get him here inside half an hour if you'll just...
No, I won't have him. I'm the one who's sick. I'll be cured my way or not at all. There's only one man who can save me. Oh, dear, I'm exhausted. I wonder how a battery feels when it pours electricity into a non-conductor.
Holmes, you're wandering again. Let me at least pour you a glass of water. What a mess this table is in.
Don't want water. Give me the moon.
Hello? What's this curious little ivory box? I've never seen that before.
Don't touch it, Watson. Don't touch it.
But, Holmes...
It's mine. I won't have it touched. Give it to me. Handle it with tongs. Like this. That's better. It's mine.
Here.
Mine.
Holmes. Get back into bed this instant. And give me that box.
No, you can't have it. It's mine. I'm going to take it to bed with me. It's mine. My own little ivory box. Nobody shall take it from me.
Very well. Now, keep covered up. That's better. You'll kill yourself if you aren't careful.
Watson. I say, Watson.
Yes?
Have you any change in your pocket?
Yes?
Any silver?
A good deal.
How many half-crowns?
Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 5.
Not enough, Watson, not enough. However, they'll have to do. Place them in your watch pocket, Watson.
Very well.
Now, put the rest of your money in your left-hand trousers pocket. Thank you.
Yes, but why?
It will balance you so much better that way.
Holmes, this is the end. You're wondering. You're delirious. I'm going to get Ainsley or the man you mentioned. I don't care which.
Very well. If you must, let it be Mr. Culverton Smith.
Culverton Smith? I never heard of him.
Possibly not, Watson. It may surprise you to know that the only man on earth who understands this disease isn't a medical man. He's a planter.
A planter?
Yes, millionaire rubber planter. An outbreak of this malady on his plantation in Sumatra caused him to study the disease. He's now in London.
Good. What's his address?
13 Lower Burke Street.
13 Lower Burke Street. Very well. I'll fetch him at once.
I warn you, he may not come. There's no good feeling between us. His nephew died, you see, Watson. I had suspicions of foul play. I told his uncle so. The boy died horribly. You must soften him, Watson. Describe my condition. Beg him. Pray him. Get in here by any means. He's the only one who can save me. You will bring him to me, Watson.
Don't worry, old fella. I'll bring him here. Have to knock him unconscious to do it.
No, you must persuade him to come. But be sure to return ahead of him. Not with him, Watson. Ahead of him, you understand?
Very well.
It's vital, Watson, vital. One thing more.
Yes?
I'm worried about oysters, Watson.
What?
They're so
Why oysters?
They're so prolific. Pretty soon the world will be overrun by oysters.
Oh, Holmes, you're off again.
There was I. Strange how the brain controls the brain. You still here, Watson? I thought you'd gone long ago.
Well, I'm going at once. I'll be back in no time. If you want anything, ring for Mrs. Hudson.
First, the ocean will be overrun with them. Millions of them, millions of oysters.
Oh, Dr. Watson, how is he? Here's Mr. Lestrade of Scotland Yard. He dropped in to inquire about Mr. Holmes.
Hello, Dr. Watson. How do things stand? How's the old boy?
He's a very sick man, I'm afraid, Lestrade.
Yes, I heard some rumor to that effect.
Lestrade, you're a cold-blooded fish.
Possibly. But I think I'll stay around until you return. How about a dish of tea in the back parlor? Hey, Mrs. Hudson.
Oh, you. Speaking of tea at a time like this, I'm ashamed of you. With Mr. Holmes lying upstairs, practically on his deathbed. All right, I'll bring you a cup. But I hope it chokes you, that I do.
9, 11, 13. Here we are. Suppose he's not at home. He must be.
Yes, sir?
Is Mr. Culverton Smith in?
Yes, sir.
Will you take my card in to him at once and tell him it's urgent?
Yes, sir, but he's in his study working. He don't like to be disturbed.
But it's a matter of life and death, don't you understand? I must see him. Here. Perhaps this will help.
Oh, thank you, sir. I'll do my best. Will you step inside, sir? I won't be a minute. A gentleman to see you, Mr. Smith, sir. Says it's urgent.
Who is he? What does he want?
Here's his card, sir.
Watson? Dr. Watson? I don't know him. How often have I told you, Staples, I'm not to be disturbed when I'm working in my study?
But he says he must see you. It's a matter of life and death, he says.
Tell him to go to blazes. I'm not at home. I won't see him. Tomorrow morning.
Oh, but you must, sir. It can't wait. I won't leave until I've told you the whole...
What's this? What's the meaning of this intrusion? I said tomorrow, didn't I?
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, but I must see you now. It's about Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes? Sherlock Holmes, did you say?
Yes, I've just come from him.
Well, what about Holmes?
He's desperately ill, dying. That's why I've come to you.
Holmes dying? Oh, dear. I'm sorry to hear it. I only know him through some business dealings, of course, but I have a great respect for his talents and his character. You see, he is an amateur of crime, as I am of disease. For him, the villain. For me, the microbe. Yes, I believe my offenders are even more deadly than his.
Mr. Smith, it was because of your special knowledge of Eastern diseases that Sherlock Holmes has sent for you.
Eastern diseases? Eastern diseases, dear me. Don't tell me that he's contracted some Oriental disease.
Yes, Mr. Smith. He's been making some professional inquiries on the docks, working among the Oriental sailors.
Oh, so that's it. Oh, dear. I trust the matter is not as grave as you suppose. How long has he been ill?
About 3 days.
Delirious?
Yes, from time to time.
Oh, dear me, this does sound serious. Yes, it would be inhuman not to go to his aid, wouldn't it? The case is certainly exceptional. I'll come with you at once, Dr. Watson.
With me? Well, you see that... well, I'm afraid I can't return with you, sir. I have some other appointments, patients that I must see. I'll see you later.
Oh, yes, I quite understand. I'll go alone. Oh, yes, that would be better in any case. We must avoid too much excitement, too many people. Yes, Dr. Watson, you can rely on my being with Mr. Holmes within half an hour.
In just a moment, we'll return to Sherlock Holmes and find out if Mr. Culverton Smith is able to cure the detective's strange malady. But first, more and more men today are beginning to realize they should take better care of the hair they've got. Remember, if you want your hair to look healthy and handsome, you need a hygienic scalp. So why settle for just any hairdressing when you can enjoy the extra advantages of Kreml Hair Tonic? Kreml contains a special combination of hair grooming ingredients which is found in no other hair tonic. This highly specialized hair tonic keeps dry, stubborn hair neatly in place all day long and always gives it such a natural, well-groomed appearance, never sticky or greasy. But men, Kreml does lots more than keep hair looking handsome. A quick massage with Kreml stimulates circulation right in the surface of the scalp, leaving your scalp feeling so alive, so invigorated. At the same time, Kreml removes loose dandruff. It's excellent to lubricate a dry scalp. And if your hair is so dry that it breaks and falls when you comb it, remember Kreml actually helps condition the hair, in that it makes it feel softer, more pliable. So men, buy a bottle of Kreml at any drug counter. Ask for an application at your barber shop. Use Kreml to keep your scalp more hygienic, your hair always looking its very best. Kreml. Kreml Hair Tonic. Well, Dr. Watson, I see what you meant by the greatest shock Sherlock Holmes ever gave you. And I can hardly wait to hear the rest of the story. What happened after you'd seen Mr. Culverton?
Well, I hurried back to Baker Street as fast as I could, just as Holmes had instructed me to. Mrs. Hudson met me at the door. Any change, Mrs. Hudson? Has anything happened while I was gone?
No, Dr. Watson. He called me in to light the gas a few minutes ago. He won't have it up full. He says it hurts his eyes.
How did he look?
Oh, a little better, I should say. He's awful weak, but he's not delirious anymore.
Good. Where's Lestrade?
Oh, he's about somewhere. Down in the kitchen, annoying the cook, most likely. I never did see such a man for eating.
Heartless brute. Well, I'll go up to Mr. Holmes. Here I am, Holmes.
Did you see him?
Yes, he's coming.
Admirable, Watson. Admirable. I knew I could count on you. What did you tell him?
I told him about the sailors in the East End and that you were delirious.
Quite right. Yes. You can now disappear from the scene.
What? I'll do no such thing. I'm going to wait and hear his opinion.
So you shall, Watson, so you shall, but not where he can see you. There's no hiding place in the room except the space behind the head of my bed. Suppose you crawl in there.
Crawl in there?
Watson, I'm a sick man. I must be human. It's got to be behind the bed or not at all. I don't want you discussing the case over my dead, inert body. You can hear what he says perfectly from your hiding place. Oh, there he is now. What's it to be, Watson? Behind the bed or out of the room?
Oh, very well, if you insist. I'll wedge myself in there. There's not much room in here.
Quick, Watson, quick if you love me.
Oh, it's a tight fit. I can't move a muscle.
Good. Don't speak. Don't move. Whatever happens, don't budge. Just listen. Listen to every word. Don't move. Don't move.
It's a gentleman by the name of Smith, Mr. Holmes. He says you sent for him.
It's all right. I understand the case. You can leave us.
Yes, sir.
Oh. So there you are, my fine fellow. Pretty bad fix, eh? Holmes. Holmes, can you hear me? It's me, Smith.
You? I hardly dared hope you'd come.
I should think not. But here I am. Coals of fire, Holmes, huh? Coals of fire.
Very good. Very noble of you. You're the only man who can save me.
You realize that, eh? Do you know what is the matter with you?
The same thing that killed your nephew.
Yes, dear Victor. He was dead on the fourth day. Strong, hearty fellow he was, too. Surprising that you should both contract such a strange, out-of-the-way disease in the heart of London. A disease, too, of which I had made a special study. Very smart of you to notice that in Victor's case, but rather uncharitable to suggest that it was cause and effect.
Oh, I knew that you did it.
Oh, you did you? Well, you can't prove it. You've got a fine nerve, spreading reports like that about me, and then crawling to me for help when you're in trouble.
Don't hold it against me. Let bygones be bygones. I'll put it out of my head. Only cure me, and I'll forget it.
Forget what?
About Victor Savage's death. You've as good as admitted it, but I'll forget it. I swear I will.
It'll make little difference whether you forget or remember. You'll never see the inside of a witness box. Oh, no, quite another shaped box, my dear Holmes, I assure you. I'm not interested in my nephew anymore. It's you I'm after. So, you think you contracted this disease among the sailors, eh?
That's the only way I can account for it.
And you think you have brains. Consider yourself smart, don't you? Well, I'm smarter than you are, Mr. Holmes. Think back. Think back. Can't you remember any other way you could have got this thing?
I can't think. My mind's gone. For heaven's sake, help me.
Yes, I'm going to help you. I want you to understand how this happened to you. I want you to know before you die.
Oh, it's terrible. Give me something to stop the pain.
Oh, so now it's painful, eh? Yes, the natives used to do some squealing toward the end. Now listen. Can't you remember any unusual incident in your life just before your symptoms began?
No, nothing.
Something came by post. Remember that?
I'm too sick to remember.
Then I'll help you. You hear me? You shall hear me.
Yes, the pain, it's killing
you
me.
You remember a box? A little ivory box. It came by post on Wednesday. Do you remember?
Yes, it had a spring inside. I cut myself. It drew blood. It was a joke.
That was no joke, you fool. That spring was covered with the germs of this disease. Who asked you to cross my path? You've got what was coming to you. I sent that box, and it has killed you.
I remember. The box, the little ivory box. There it is on the table.
So it is. Yes, by George, the very one. Well, it may as well leave the room in my pocket. Here, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Here goes your last shred of evidence.
You can have it, only save me. Save me.
Now, at last, you know the truth. You know I've killed you. You knew so much about the fate of Victor Savage that I've sent you to share it.
Now what you going to do?
Do, Mr. Sherlock Holmes? Why, now I shall sit here and watch you die.
I can hardly see the light. Turn up the gas.
The shadows begin to fall, do they? Very well. I'll turn it up so that I may see you better. There. Uh-huh. And now, is there any other little service I can do for you, my friend?
Yes, you can give me a match and a cigarette.
What's the meaning of this? You're not sick? You've been malingering. You're not sick at all.
Not sick, just weak. Yes, the best way to act a part is to be it. I give you my word that for 3 days I haven't touched food, drink, nor tobacco. It has been rather irksome. Ah, yes, here are the cigarettes. Ah, that's better. Very much better.
I hope it chokes you. I've a mind to do it myself.
Not so vindictive, my dear Mr. Smith. I fancy I hear Lestrade's step on the stair. When you turned up the light, that was his signal to come and get you.
Why, you...
Come in, Lestrade, come in.
Oh, you've trapped him, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, here's your man. You can arrest him. On what charge, may I ask?
The murder of one Victor Savage.
And the attempted murder of one Sherlock Holmes. Take him away, Lestrade. Take him away.
Oh, no, you don't. I'll knock your head in.
Look out, Lestrade.
It's all right, Mr. Holmes. I've got the handcuffs on him.
A nice trap this is, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. It'll bring you to the dock, not me. You asked me to come here to cure you. I was sorry for you, so I came, and now you make charges against me. Insane charges for which you have no proof. My word is as good as yours, Holmes. Remember that?
Good heavens, I'd totally forgotten. My dear Watson, 1,000 apologies. You can come out now.
About time, too. I'm just about numb, crouching behind there all this time.
Mr. Smith, allow me to present my witness, Dr. Watson. I'm sure he found your conversation most enlightening.
Well, that settles that. Come on, you. Keep moving.
Well, you're pulling my leg. The spring didn't really prick you, did it, Holmes?
No. Well, you see, my dear Watson, a thing you have to understand is that neither you nor Mrs. Hudson are particularly convincing when it comes to acting. So it was necessary to impress you with the reality of my condition in order to obtain results. And then, you may believe that I pooh-poohed your professional ability, but you can put that down as a part of the delirium. I have the highest regard for your talents, both as a doctor and as an historian.
Oh, now you're pulling my leg. Look here. You didn't, as I said, really get pricked with that spring, did you?
Oh, certainly not. I always handle strange packages with suspicion.
Well, what I want to know is how you managed to assume that ghastly appearance.
3 days of fasting does not improve anyone's beauty, Watson. For the rest, a bit of Vaseline on the forehead, belladonna in the eye, rouge on the cheekbones, and a crust of beeswax on the lips all produce a rather satisfactory effect. Only, I couldn't afford to let you get too good a look at it.
I'll take your pulse and temperature.
Quite. And now, if you will tell Mrs. Hudson that her invalid has recovered sufficiently to desire a large steak with plenty of fried onions. I've been promising it to myself for hours.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Watson will be back in just a moment to tell us about next week's story. But first, girls, many of those beautiful Powers models come out here to Hollywood to become movie stars. And I must say one can't help but be impressed with their gorgeous, lustrous hair. Now, here's how they keep it so shining bright.
Powers models use Kreml shampoo. This amazingly beautifying shampoo has been especially developed to actually glamour bathe each tiny strand of hair, revealing all its natural glossy luster and highlight.
Yes, and remember, Kreml shampoo is wonderful for washing children's hair, too.
Most emphatically, yes, because there are no harsh caustics or chemicals in Kreml shampoo. And its luxurious active foam thoroughly cleanses the scalp and hair of all loose dandruff, as well as the dirt.
Girls, if you could only see how beautiful Powers model's hair radiates natural glossy highlights, I'm sure you'd want to try Kreml shampoo right away. Remember, no other shampoo leaves the hair more shining bright and sparkling clean. Get a bottle at any drug counter. Kreml, Kreml shampoo. Now, Dr. Watson, what about next week?
Well, now, next week I think I'll tell you about the strange case of the persecuted millionaire.
Persecuted millionaire? It sounds intriguing, Dr. Watson.
It was, Mr. Bell. In fact, I don't believe that Sherlock Holmes and I ever encountered a problem with such a bizarre and such a fantastic solution.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure was dramatized from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, The Dying Detective. The Sherlock Holmes series is produced by Tom McKnight, with original music composed and conducted by Alex Steinert. Nigel Bruce appeared by permission of California Pictures. Tom Conway through the courtesy of Eagle Lion Pictures. This is Joseph Bell, speaking for Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo, and inviting you to be with us next week at this same time when Dr. Watson will tell us about the strange case of the persecuted millionaire. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Welcome back. Well, I kind of caught on to this one with the suspicious way that Holmes was acting and requesting a very specific doctor. But I do have to say this was a very good acting job by Tom Conway, who made the sickly Holmes very, very believable. Well, now we turn to listener comments and feedback. Casey, with an IE, comments on the Sherlock Holmes page. Hi, Adam, love your show, especially the Holmes, Let George Do It, and Nero Wolfe episodes. As I'm listening weekly, I'm also reading through Sir Arthur Conan Doyle stories, and I discovered that the last line of the Darlington substitution case was taken verbatim from A Case of Identity. I appreciate that as the writers create their own stories similar to Doyle's, they wisely borrow directly from Doyle himself. Thanks for all the time and effort you put into bringing these classic broadcasts back to life. Well, thanks a lot, Casey. And it was something that borrowing from Doyle to write stories based on Holmes was something that was done even in the Sherlock Holmes movie. One great example, of course, is how for The Voice of Terror, which was set during World War II, they had Holmes say verbatim what Holmes said at the end of his last bow, which was about Holmes's involvement in World War I. And even though the actual plot of another movie, House of Fear, had nothing to do with the short story The Five Orange Pips, they used orange pips as part of the plot. And they also used the dancing men in Sherlock Holmes and the Secret Weapon in a different way than the dancing men were used in the original Doyle story. So Doyle definitely gave writers of this era some good ideas which were integrated into these non-canonical stories in a pretty effective way usually. Also want to welcome transformingseminarian.blogspot.com as the latest friend of the show. Went ahead and linked that. Now we have a brief voicemail.
I have really enjoyed your series. I pick it up on my iPod and I listen to it on a regular basis, as whenever I can. This is Robert, and I'm from Olympia, Washington. Anyway, I enjoy it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. Family actually comes from Washington State, though not that part of it. But appreciate you listening out there. Finally, we have this comment from Paul, who says, truly enjoy the detective program. Got hooked when I had satellite radio. Now I can listen and download whenever. Thanks for the work. Well, thanks so much, Paul. Much appreciated. And a reminder to our listeners, we also do the Old Time Dragnet show, radiodragnet.com, and the Old Time Radio Daily Superman show. That's available at laserandsword.com. But that'll do it for now. We'll be back tomorrow with yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Before we do get started, I do want to remind you, wherever you happen to be going this summer, whether it's up to Minnesota or over to the Virgin Islands, as you make your travel plans, remember the name JohnnyDollarAir.com first. JohnnyDollarAir.com is powered by Priceline, and your purchases there help to support the great detectives of old-time radio. So when you're making your travel plans, remember JohnnyDollarAir.com first. Well, not most of us aren't going to the Virgin Islands this year, but I guess we can get the next best thing and travel with Johnny Dollar. In today's episode, the Willard South Matter.
It's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
Lou Krager, Mr. Dollar.
Yeah, Lou, what's up?
They found the boat a few miles off the Atlantic side of St. Croix.
Oh?
She was empty.
Neither one of them aboard?
No. From what I understand, it looks like there was trouble, all right.
How's that?
Blood stains. I guess signs of a struggle. The engine had run until it was out of gas.
They're sure it's the boat, huh? Yeah, they must be.
Oh, they're sure. It's registered to Willard South.
Yeah, all right. Where can I see it?
Well, they won't have it in for another 30 minutes. The police dock is next to Royal Mail. You can't miss it. I'll meet you there if you want.
Good, Lou. I'll see you in about 20 minutes.
Edmund O'Brien and a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Great Eastern Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Willard South matter. Expense account item 1, $143.80, airfare and incidentals between Hartford and the city of Charlotte Amalie, Island of St. Thomas, Virgin Island Group. I arrived there 2 days after the disappearance of your policyholders, Willard South and his wife, Georgina, and 1 day after the report had been made by his foster mother. She was too upset to be questioned, but I did find a local guide and boat owner who claimed to know the boating habits of Willard South through a number of fishing trips. I made arrangements with him to start my own search the next morning, but it was this guide, Lou Krager, who phoned that second evening to tell me that South's cruiser had been found, empty.
Oh, Dollar, over here.
Yeah, Lou.
I didn't know if you'd spotted me or not.
I hadn't. You could do better on light down here.
Oh, that is part of the romance of the island.
This is the boat, huh?
A police officer still aboard. A native by the name of Shoy. I told him you were coming. We can go aboard now. In the cabin. Officer Shoy?
Oh, yes?
Mr. Dollar is here.
Oh, come inside then.
Thanks for letting me aboard, officer.
Glad to meet you, Mr. Dollar. I was sent to your University of Iowa to learn to be a policeman.
It's a good school.
I learned what they taught me, but I've had no chance to learn if what they taught me is right. It is our boast that there is no crime in the Virgin Islands. That has been right. But now this...
Well, it happens in the best of circles sooner or later. What do you make of it?
Oh, let me show you with my light. Near the wheel, see?
Is the bullet still in the wood?
Yes. I will take out the piece of the panel with a saw and take the bullet from that.
This bloodstain under the wheel. Are there more like it?
This is the large one.
As if somebody fell there.
As if somebody fell there. There are more here and more in the passageway, then on the deck. There on the rail, as if somebody climbed over the side or was pushed over.
Yeah.
There's one other thing back here. This piece of line. Look.
It's been cut.
Mr. Krager says a small boat was usually tied to the stern.
You sure of that, Lou?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Willard always trailed a dinghy. You know, like a skiff, unless he was trolling. Then he hoisted it aboard.
But where is it now?
You're searching for it, aren't you?
Yes. So is the Coast Guard boat.
I wish you luck. A little skiff will be a lot harder to find than a cruiser like this. Well, I'll be anxious to learn of any developments, Officer Shoy. I'm staying at the Grand. Nothing had developed by noon the next day. I spent the morning on routine legwork, and at 12:30, I was back at the Willard South address. It was an old building with enough elevation to give its windows a view of Charlotte Amalie's pleasant harbor. I'd known Willard South's foster mother lived there, but I hadn't known about the man who met me at the door.
I'm Willard's brother. I was told you'd called yesterday. Mr. Dollar, come in.
Your mother was too upset to talk with me yesterday. You've gotten the news on what they found, I suppose.
Yes, I went down to see the boat. Has anything further been learned?
No, not yet.
Sit down, Mr. Dollar. It's cooler here on the veranda.
Thank you.
I wasn't here yesterday because I was searching for Willard's boat, too.
I'm surprised to learn Willard has a brother. I've asked a lot of questions about him in the village. Nobody mentioned you.
Well, I'm only here a few days a year. My home is in Tampa. I arrived the first of the week, Tuesday.
I'm glad I met you before I had to see your mother. It's a lot easier to be blunt with a brother.
Blunt, Mr. Dollar?
About Willard's reputation on the island. I can't seem to find anybody who doesn't hate him.
I'm afraid you won't either.
Do you know anyone who hated him enough to shoot him?
Well, I I hardly know how to answer that. I know a number of men have been hurt seriously by him.
The ones that have lost wives?
Yes. Do you think he's dead?
I don't know. The only thing I'm sure of is that there was a shooting on his boat and somebody was hurt. I'm told your brother and his wife were seen leaving on it at dusk, night before last. Is that right?
Yes. They'd packed an evening meal.
Meal had never been eaten. Were little trips like this a regular habit of theirs?
No, they weren't at all. It was a special occasion. Georgina has never stopped hoping she could reform Willard and win him back. This trip was one more of her efforts.
Did they say where they were going?
No, but I thought it would be Cobra. That's an island about 20 miles from here in a westerly direction. Mother said they started that way, but the boat was found almost 40 miles in the other direction.
It's a matter of 60 miles.
Yes, 60 miles. Mr. Dollar, what could have happened in those 60 miles?
I don't know yet, but I hope to find out. You knew about the skiff being cut loose.
Yes, they told me, but...
Paul, dear.
Yes, Mother.
Who's with you? Is there any news?
Nothing yet. Mother, this is Mr. Dollar from the insurance company.
How do you do, Mr. Dollar?
Mrs. South, I'm sorry I have to meet you at a time like this.
A great many crises in the past 10 years have revolved around my son, Willard. I've conditioned myself to expect them. Even his death by violence, if that should be.
Mother, please.
But if harm has come to Georgina...
There's no evidence of that, Mrs. South.
Well, if it does, I shall hold myself responsible.
Mother.
Because I allowed her to become the wife of the beast I have called my son.
It was a rare situation. There was no actual evidence that Willard South had been murdered, but almost everyone I talked to seemed to think he had been, simply because there were so many motives. One of the people who didn't think so was a newcomer to the island, Celeste Robertson, there to take advantage of the 6 weeks divorce law.
Who told you about me?
A bartender up the street. He said you and South had been seen together recently.
Yes, I know him. As a matter of fact, I've spent quite a bit of time with him in the last couple of weeks.
Where do you think he is?
But I don't know.
Do you think he's dead?
No. No, I don't.
Most people do.
Well, I can't help that. I know a lot of people don't like him.
Would there be anyone close to you that doesn't like him?
No, there wouldn't. I'm here alone.
When did you see him last?
The afternoon before he and his wife disappeared in their boat.
You answered that almost as if you knew you'd be asked the question.
Well, I didn't. I just remembered it was only a couple of days ago.
But you wouldn't remember his mentioning anybody who might be out after a scalp, huh? I understand he enjoys that sort of thing.
Never mentioned anybody.
What are you holding back, Mrs. Robertson?
Nothing. I don't have anything to hold back.
Did he ever say anything to you about getting rid of his wife?
I don't know what you mean.
Look, all we have to work with is a bullet hole in the boat and some bloodstains that could have come from her or from him.
He never said anything.
And what are you afraid of?
I'm not. Look, Mr. Dollar, please, I don't want to get my name mixed up in this if I can help it. I'm here sort of on good behavior. I know I was wrong to see him because he was married, but...
But what?
Just because I did see him, I don't think I have to get mixed up in things like shooting. Something I don't know about at all.
I guess you can't be blamed for that. You don't have to get mixed up in it. Unless you already are. All that day, planes searched the sea for the missing skiff. Boats, too, swept back and forth between the islands. It wouldn't seem possible that anything they missed would ever be found. But it was. That evening, after the planes had given up in order to get back to their fields before dark, a radio report was received from one of the boats. The skiff had been found, and in it, still alive, was Mrs. Willard South. I was with Officer Shoy when the boat was docked under the steady hand of a leathery old skipper with the help of one crewman.
Forward there. Get some fenders over, Gerald. What's the matter with you? All right. Take a strain now.
We can go aboard now, Mr. Dollar.
All right.
Ahoy, Captain Bracken.
Hello yourself, Officer Shoy.
Your luck is good.
Ain't used these eyes for 72 years for nothing, Officer Shoy.
How's Mrs. South? Can she talk to us?
She cannot. She's been put through a hard time. She gets turned over to Dr. Gore before she talks to anybody else.
What about her husband? Did she say what happened?
Yes, she did. She's seen him shot down before her very eyes. And his dead body heaved to the sharks. And then somebody go fetch Dr. Gore. She needs some work, else she'll die.
We'll return you to the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. Have you heard the new Sing It Again? The new comedy of Jan Murray, your host, on that coast-to-coast phone? The new cash prizes for cracking the mystery of Sing It Again's phantom voice? The new speed and color of the tuneful little riddle songs that make Sing It Again a Saturday night must for radio listening? You'll like the new Sing It Again. Be listening for it tonight on most of these same CBS stations. Now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
It wasn't until the next morning that Dr. Gar decided Mrs. South was strong enough to be questioned. He'd taken her to the single small hospital in Charlotte Amalie, and at 10, he beckoned from the door to her room.
I think it'll be all right, but please don't tire her.
Mr. Dollar.
Yeah?
I want you to question her. I never learned about a case like this one.
I never did either. But anything you say. All right, Doctor.
Georgina, this is Officer Shoy, and this is Mr. Dollar.
Yes?
Mr. Dollar is here to ask you some questions, but I don't want you to let him tire you.
I'll try not to, Mrs. Allen.
Why are you here?
I was sent down from the States when you and your husband disappeared by your insurance company.
I see.
Now, I know it's pretty horrible to go back over it, but we've got to find out just what happened on that boat. And the quicker we do it, the quicker we can get to the bottom of it.
I'll try to help.
Captain Bracken told us just the bare details.
He is the boat captain who found you. Remember, I mentioned his name.
Yes.
He told us you saw somebody shoot your husband. Who was it?
I don't know. There were two men. I've never seen them before.
How did they get aboard, Mrs. Sal?
We were on our way to Calibra. Almost halfway, I think. It was dark, and we saw a light blinking from another boat. Will said it was a signal that somebody was in trouble, and we went over. This man said they'd run out of fuel and asked if we had any to spare. But when Will pulled alongside, this man jumped on our boat, a gun, and
It's all right, Georgina. Don't go on if you don't want to.
He shot Will. That's all. He shot him, and then the other man jumped aboard, too.
What did they say?
They didn't say anything.
You think your husband knew them?
No, he didn't know them.
What did they do then?
Well, one of them hit me because I was screaming. I was wearing a bracelet, and he grabbed it off my wrist and made me take off 2 rings and give them to him. And they took Will's wallet and they dragged him out, and then they pushed him into the water. And I don't remember anymore. I can't.
It's all right, Georgina. Nobody can hurt you now.
No.
Gentlemen, I think we'd better let her rest now.
Sure, Doctor. I'm sorry we had to bother you, Mrs. South.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. Considering what she's been through, I think she did very well.
Actually, her physical condition, except for exhaustion, is quite good. She did have water during the time she was adrift and some shelter from the sun. What do you make of it?
Well, the whole thing seems pretty brutal for simple robbery. Say, where's the nearest prison, Shoy?
Well, Puerto Rico.
Now, that's something that had not occurred to me. Escaped convicts might carry out such a ruthless attack, might they not?
Yeah, even more so.
Well, I will send cables to both of those prisons.
I think you'd better. It was little enough to go on, but it was obviously useless to try to get any more information from Mrs. South then. Dr. Guy had every right to insist that we leave his patient alone. Officer Shoy went to his headquarters to cable his questions, and I went back to the waterfront. The skiff was still on the dock, but before I even got to it, I was hailed.
Hey, you there. Whatever your name is.
How are you, Captain Bracken?
Oh, how's the invalid? Have you heard?
Yeah, I just left her. She'll be okay.
Yeah, lots of spunk, that one. What are you figures behind it?
Well, she wasn't strong enough to tell us much. But Officer Shoy is checking the possibility that those two men she talks about might be escaped convicts.
Say, they might have been.
Well, I can't see anybody like that leaving her alive to talk about it.
And no matter how low they get, there's them that can't kill a woman, I suppose. What are you doing down here?
I want to take a look at that skiff by daylight. The escaped prisoner theory is too long a chance to rest on. It still may have been a local job.
Oh, I hate to see it turn out that way somehow.
Why do you say that?
Oh, this wants to be a peaceful island. It's the truth. Nobody wasted any affection on Willard. But if it'd been downright fitting if two escaped convicts done that devil in.
I spent 30 minutes looking over the skiff, and another hour going over Willard South's cruiser again. Nothing I dug out of either one added up. Neither did the results of a trip to the cable office. There had been no recent escapes from the prisons. Right from the beginning, for all my prying and all my questions, I hadn't gotten one positive lead. But by this time, there were so many things I couldn't put my finger on that I began to reason, why not make a weapon of just that? So I started again with Lou Krager, the first person I'd met in the investigation. I found him aboard his boat.
Dollar, what's got into you anyway?
I'm sick and tired of the runaround and double talk I've been getting.
I don't get it.
You will. You were quick to make yourself available to me when I showed up here. Why, Krager?
I thought you needed some help. You wanted a boat, I had one.
I think you mean somebody else needed help. That piece of line you pointed out to Officer Shoy and me on South's cruiser, the short piece. Who cut it?
I don't know. How should I know who cut it?
It's one of the things you better get straight. You said it had been used to tow the skiff, but the line of the skiff had not been cut.
What does that mean?
That you were lying. Now, I'm no sailor, but why cut a line when loosening a couple of half hitches would free the skiff?
But it was cut, wasn't it?
The line you pointed out was cut, and you made your point that Willard South always trailed the skiff. Why? Because you wanted the search for it to go on. Because you knew his wife was alive and would be found in it.
I think the tropics have got you, Dollar.
You don't think I can break this case down, do you? Because half of the non-tourists on the island are willing to lie to cover up for her. I don't care how noble their loyalty is. This case is going to be broken down. Because there's a reason Coast Guard planes can search for 3 days and not find her, but that night after dark, your friend Bracken can. Her story of the other boat and the two men. If the South cruiser had been stolen, the other boat would have been found.
How do you know what happened?
I know that a doctor will be here in less than 18 hours who will prove that Georgina South did not spend 3 days adrift.
Dollar! You don't know what you're talking about. Where are you going?
To cable the doctor.
Now, wait a minute. You don't know what you're doing, Dollar.
I was told what to do when I was sent down here.
I'll leave things as they are, Dollar. Believe me, it's the right thing to do.
Not where I come from.
Well, I can't let you... Mr. Krager, I order you to stop. Stop, or I have the right to use...
You heard him, Krager. You heard him. Take it easy.
Listen to me, Dollar. Sometimes right, the way you find it in the book, isn't right. Remember that I told you.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, Mrs. South. I didn't see you in the swing. I wouldn't have barged in.
You startled me. I must have been dozing. There's been so little sleep.
Yes, I know. I went to the hospital first. They told me that Georgina had come home.
Yes, she did.
I'll have to see her, please.
Why must you see her, Mr. Dollar?
I think you know. You know. Willard's brother knows. Captain Bracken, his crewmen know. Luke Krager, Dr. Garr. Not sure how many others.
Well, I'm afraid
Please, what's the use? You shouldn't have tried it, no matter how you felt. You should have realized that it wouldn't work. Even way down here in the Virgin Islands, a murderer is hard to protect. Where is she?
Who told you this?
There were too many mistakes. Luke Krager made the biggest one.
You two are making one, Mr. Dollar.
I'm sorry, Mrs. South. Murder is murder.
They speak of heredity and environment. Many say that heredity will never be overcome. Others say that environment will win out. But both are right and both are wrong.
Mrs. South.
My husband and I took our boys from the poorest foundling home we could find. Paul is one of the best. But Willard didn't deserve to live. Mother. He became more bestial every day. He couldn't live any longer. No more secrets, Georgina, my dear. I must tell Mr. Dollar the truth. It's I who've been hiding behind my friends. I'm the murderer. I killed Willard. I had to before he destroyed us all.
Expense account item 2, $85.40, miscellaneous expenses in Charlotte Amalie. Item 3, same as item 1, transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $373. Remarks? I tabbed the confession as a false one when I heard it. And I'm not charging the company for the time I spent trying to prove it false. But it wasn't. It was true. And so is the awkward fact that a large number of the leading villagers are liable as accessories after the fact of murder. It should develop into quite a trial. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien's latest picture is the Paramount Pictures production, The Redhead and the Cowboy. Featured in tonight's cast were Irene Hubbard as Evangela, Jan Miner as Georgina, Gilbert Mack as Lou, Fran Lafferty as Celeste, Ed Latimer as Sam, Maurice Tarplin as Shoy, and Bernard Lindrow as the Doctor. This is Olin Tice inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns in another transcribed adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Everybody wants to help America's defense program. And part of everybody's duty is to be extremely careful with the handling of fire. This is especially true in wooded territory, where forest fires can cause terrible losses in valuable natural resources, lives, and manpower. 9 out of every 10 of these disastrous fires can be prevented because they're man-made. Don't leave fire prevention to the other fellow. Only you can prevent forest fires. Stay tuned now for 5 minutes of the latest news. This is CBS, where you laugh at Jack Benny every Sunday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. On the best part of a radio journey is your no risk of sunstroke. All right, well, all silliness aside, we saw here a Johnny Dollar favorite tactic. When you don't have any clues, and when in doubt, bluster and guess your way through. Usually does work out pretty well for him, I think, particularly when he is dealing with the non-professional sort of killers that he was dealing with in this episode. And here we kind of get, in some ways, more than in other episodes of this show as well as others, this sense of the role of the detective, particularly for the police, but in this case also for the insurance company, as relates to the rule of law. At its best, the police detective, or any other detective for that matter, in fiction, stands with that kind of certainty like Johnny Dollar did in this episode, which when I was thinking about it, thought of how much of the world throughout history, and even today, you basically have revenge killings, honor killings, all the terror that comes with lawlessness. And the detective basically finds himself standing full square against that on the side of law rather than vengeance. At least that's what happens when the genre's at its best. Alright, well, we turn to listener comments and feedback. We got a nice comment from Podcast Alley. Very good podcast, great mix of shows with useful information before each episode. Well, thank you so much and appreciate everybody's support. We finished number 4 on Podcast Alley, so I encourage everyone to vote this month, and in the month of April, be sure to let us know what your favorite show is of the ones we're currently doing. We got a somewhat odd review on iTunes, but with a good reason. Coachy says, went to download more episodes and there were none. Still had about 100 to go through. We'll try again tomorrow, and I hope it's just a glitch. Miss you. Well, thanks so much, Coaches. What actually happened, and I should just let folks know, might be curious what caused this. It was some of the work we were doing to get the, I mentioned on Wednesday, the article feed we have on Amazon, where folks with the Kindle can get the greatdetectives.com articles we do on a wide variety of different nostalgia and detective topics. I had a couple conflicting needs when it came to feeds, and it took a little working out, and at one point, I think for about an hour, but it's now back and working, and so people have got the podcast, and we've also got the blog into the Kindle blog store. Well, that'll do it for now. We'll be back next week with the Abbotts, and we'll have some other exciting announcements coming up next week. Be sure to listen then. In the meanwhile, send your comments to box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And follow us over on Twitter at Radio Detectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.